Focus on the issue. Come on.
No, this is important.
Give us the facts.
Because this is
an area where you can win. Give us the facts.
Garbage. There were no military operations in Crimea, in Ukraine, or on the border.
Crimea was captured. The whole thing is a military operation.
True. Correct. That is right. Notice how he doesn't counter what I'm saying. Why do these guys touch each other so much? There's too much touching here. I'm uncomfortable with this. Even as a bisexual man, the amount of touching that's going on at this side of the table is driving me crazy, and it's making me uncomfortable. I should have wore a gayer shirt for this. Every single time this guy opens his mouth to respond to anything, there is no factual analysis. There is no substantive disagreement. It's just narrativizing and storytelling.
How do you not look at these three things and think, like, wow,
where's the response to this? We should just be talking about whether or not we think Donald Trump is a bigger dick than Hunter Biden. That should be the thing. We've seen Hunter Biden's. Why can't we see Trump's?
Will you just shut up for 2 minutes?
Seb, hold on a second. First of all,
it's almost like a blood libel.
Oh my God!
Given that Biden is the incumbent, Stephen, do you want to start us off?
Yeah.
Why is he good?
I think that Biden is a good president because I think that he's shown that he's willing to defend and strengthen our institutions. I think that the United States is only as strong as the institutions that we have. You can have parchment guarantees from constitutions that say you're afforded XYZ rights, or you're guaranteed in the United States to be able to do some particular things. But at the end of the day, if we don't have a government telling you that the food is safe, or this medicine is safe, or your car is not going to explode at the end of the day, I think that none of those things actually matter. The parchment guarantees. So I think that Biden has done a really good job at kind of reaffirming our institutions, whereas I feel like Trump is a bit more negative towards them. The second thing is I think Biden has done a really good job at being able to actually bring different people in Congress together to pass legislation. I think that bipartisanship is really important right now, considering how divided we are. You've got things that Trump said about infrastructure for 4 years that never got done. The closest we got to infrastructure building in the United States under Trump are tariffs, which are basically just taxes on our own citizens, whereas Biden was able to pass the IRA and the CHIPS Act, which both have fostered a ton of new manufacturing that's been happening in the United States, which I think is really cool because we're finally building stuff again. And then I think that the foreign policy under Biden, I think that our aims right now are a lot more noble than they were under Trump. I think that regardless of your feelings, our participation with supporting Ukraine against Russia or supporting Israel against the situation in the Middle East is a lot more defensible than endless drone wars that we're trying to hide in Yemen, fighting in Syria, whatever other, the photo opportunities with North Korea, the back and forth with Iran, whatever kind of mixed bag of undermining the United States.
Am I sick? Your voice sounds a bit scrappy. It's probably just because we're using lapel mics and they're just whatever. It's the mic tuning and maybe the compression. Maybe August compressed this video.
United States Trump was involved in when it came to U.S. foreign policy under him. So those would be my three big ones. I think defensive institutions, ability to bipartisanly pass legislation, and then more noble foreign policy aims.
Perfect. I will come back to you to probe at some of those things. Seb, what's your case for Trump?
He loves America. He doesn't hate America. It's really that.
Something that's funny is that if you watch me prepare for this debate by watching literally one video of his, which was his conversations that he had, or was it a debate or the resolution stuff that he did?
But I find it strange.
He basically uses the exact same talking points. I don't know if, I guess I use a lot of the same talking points, but it's funny because he repeats them almost verbatim.
Simple.
What's your case for Trump?
He loves America. He doesn't hate America. It's really that simple. And he understands the institutions are either broken or corrupt. And he's not a member of the political elite. He wasn't in politics for 47 years like the current incumbent in the White House. He is not part of the quote-unquote political elite that clearly detests our nation and Judeo-Christian civilization. There's a reason that working-class Americans from across the nation voted for him in 2016. There's a reason that recently in Harlem, we saw what? We saw a black 10-year-old child chant out, "We love you, Trump," which was then picked up by all the adults
cringe
around that young boy.
It's hard for me when I think of things I need to counter because I'm like, this is so obviously sounds fucking stupid. Are we really going by the one interaction? Is this convincing to anybody? Is this a serious argument right now? PhD political science, really?
Trump, which was then picked up by all the adults around that young boy, because they see in that man authenticity. He's not a machine career politician. He's not somebody with 21 shell companies funneling money from communist China, Russia, the Ukraine, into his son's dodgy dealings and then into the Biden family. He has authenticity and he loves America. The first time I met him, I've told this story on your show previously, I grew up in the UK. It was a very different culture for me to meet this reality TV star in his, golden tower in New York. But within 30 seconds of sitting down with this man, I realized two things. He loves America and he hates political correctness. That is the antithesis of the political class, whether it's rhino fake Republicans or the institutionalized Democrats. And that's why he's trouncing Biden in every significant poll in America. People see a man who understands America has lost its way. The elite on both sides of the aisle have betrayed especially American workers, and we need to fix it. That's why.
And is it really true that the Biden and the people around him hate America? I mean, isn't that an extraordinary claim to make, Seb?
It is. It's kind of perverse, but if you look at everything they've done for the last 3.5 years, I answer the question thusly. What else would you do for...
Do you always notice the cameras and lighting when you do these things to get ideas for podcasts? Yeah, I'm pretty much always checking out cameras and lighting now, yeah. But I see how most people set things up. It's pretty standard, yeah.
3.5 years, if your ostensible goal was actually to destroy America, what would you do differently? Nothing. You'd open the borders, you'd give billions of dollars...
I like these synthetic shots.
...to the greatest state-sponsored terrorism in the world.
Oh, that's really cute. Oh, wait, look at this. So this shot is a composition of two other shots that they have cut together, but they've faded one into the other. I wonder how they make this look as it does, because his hand, it almost looks like he's in my frame. That's cute. I think the synthetic shots are better than the wides. Although in this case, the wide kind of works because they've got the lighting set up on both, they've got the blue and the red, and then they've got a guy in the middle. So the wide here is okay, although the wide is a significantly worse shot than the normal 2, and then even the synthetic, I think, yeah.
Goal was actually to destroy America. What would you do differently? Nothing. You'd open the borders, you'd give billions of dollars to the greatest state-sponsored terrorism in the world, Iran, that every Friday chants death to America. You'd undermine our relationship with our closest ally in the Middle East, Israel. Stop sending them the weapons they need.
The wide is really low. True, but it's probably because if it goes any higher, it'll hit the lights or whatever on top, yeah.
To save themselves from the bloodthirsty jihadists that killed more Jews than we've ever seen since the end of the show, at the end of the Holocaust. You'd make it harder for Americans to live their lives. When on the first day of the Biden administration, you ban the XL Keystone Pipeline extension. You say no more fracking, no more energy exploration on federal lands. And what do we have? We go from $1.80 a gallon of petrol to now we have in California.
What are you writing down when he's talking? Just key points. It's usually stuff he's writing down that I want to address. So if he says something, I'll write it down. I could probably upload my note. That'd be kind of a meme. That'd be kind of funny. Because I'm just on an iPad, I could scroll down. I usually wipe and redo it. But I'm usually just writing down a thing he'll bring up and then 1 or 2 words to respond to it. So if somebody says Trump, he says Trump loves America. I might write down loves America and then underscore hates immigrants or something. I might write, this is an example. I might write something like that down. So then when I'm reading it and giving an answer back, I'm incorporating everything he said into my answer.
California, $6. When you're a man who lives on how much it costs to put a full tank of gas in your car, if you're a worker, if you're a plumber, if you're a carpenter, you've crushed tens of millions of people. That is only possible if you hate the nation in which you live. Think of this thing. It's set up by one person. Don't listen to me. Don't listen to Sebastian. Listen to Biden's former boss. 5 days before he became president, he said, we are going to fundamentally change this nation. I know you're a married man, Konstantin. Mm-hmm. Don't tell your wife you want to fundamentally change her because she won't believe you love her. You'll be on the couch or in the doghouse, okay? You don't love that which you wish to fundamentally change, and that's what the left has become.
Well, there you go. I'm getting marital advice as well. Stephen, there's quite a lot there. I'm going to come back to some of the points you made in your opening and let Seb probe them as well. But there was a lot there. Do you want to come back on that?
Yeah, I mean, I disagree with almost every part. I think that I don't think Trump loves America. I think it's pretty obvious that Trump loves himself. I think even Trump fans will admit that Trump is more in love with himself than any other individual entity that exists on this planet. I always think it's really funny. I think one of the most interesting things that happened with conservatives is this idea that they found a common man who's not a part of the elite to champion their causes, and it happened.
You got the contrapositive wrong, by the way. If you ever want help working on that formula, contrapositive is when you're reversing two parts of the same, right? Like if I say if I were to say like all men love war, the contrapositive of that would be all women hate war, right? That's a contrapositive? Or am I using that incorrectly?
Happens to be a billionaire real estate mogul from New York City that was essentially born with a silver spoon. I think that's incredibly interesting. When you talk about like...
Wait, no. It doesn't work like that. Contrapositive. You reverse the consequent. Would it be all men hate war, no men love war? Would that be a contrapositive? Contraposition. Hold on. Contraposition refers to the inference of going from a conditional statement into its logically equivalent contrapositive. Oh, never mind. I've been using this. Ignore every single time I've ever said contrapositive ever then. Okay. So if I say like, all women love destiny, the contrapositive of that would be no women hate destiny, right?
Silver spoon. I think that's incredibly interesting. When you talk about like, I mean, we could go into family stuff. I think it's interesting that people are so critical about Hunter Biden when Kushner is signing multi-billion-dollar deals with Saudi Arabia, when Kushner was working in...
Hold on, but that's whataboutism, right? That's not like Hunter Biden could be a bad guy and Jared Kushner could be doing whatever you say he's doing. Those are not...
Sure, I'm not. It's not a whataboutism because it's not a defense of Hunter. I think it's more remarking that it's interesting what conservatives that are fans of Trump are selectively skeptical of. That if Biden had created a position in the White House for his son Hunter to work.
I shouldn't use the word interesting here. I should say that it points to faulty reasoning. That's what I should say more specifically.
Under, and then he had sent his son to go and negotiate on behalf of the United States, and then afterwards his son was signing multi-billion-dollar deals for companies that he worked with. This is like Burisma, but 100 million times worse because it's in the official capacity as a government worker while being related to a president who didn't divest.
I guess all I'm saying, sorry to interject, I really want you to get the time, but I just, that argument could be played the other way. If Donald Trump had a son like Hunter Biden who was doing what Hunter Biden did, everyone on the left would be outraged too, right? So
you could play many people on the left talking about Kushner that much, considering how crazy those deals are.
I mean, people have talked about it less. It's true.
Sure.
Anyway,
I shouldn't have even let it significantly less. To pretend that talks about Kushner were anywhere near the level as the obsession with Hunter. Actually, has Kushner ever been brought up in any congressional things with Democrats? Maybe he has, and I've just missed it. But like the talk is nowhere near equivalent. Like.
Hunter Biden, I mean, Marjorie Taylor Greene has pictures of him in Congress. I don't know if you saw that. In terms of like, what would you do if you wanted to make the country worse? I mean, I could think of several things. I would encourage my supporters to lead an insurrection on the Capitol. I would try to say that the election results weren't real. I would claim that the election was fake before even coming into office, which he did before his first term. I'd probably start to gain notoriety or popularity in the political world by suggesting that the current president was born in Kenya, not the United States. A lot of people forget, but that's how Trump initially picked up his popularity. It was with the birth certificate stuff with Barack Obama. I think that when you talk about like wanting to fundamentally change this country, I don't think Biden wants to do that. I think Biden genuinely loves the United States. I look at somebody like Donald Trump, who undermines basically every single part of this country, whether it's the legal and judicial system, whether it's trust in the voting process, whether it's NATO, whether it's U.S. Impressions or the U.S. reputation abroad. I think that Trump fundamentally has no respect for any part of this country. That's why he suggested suspending the Constitution so that he could look for voter fraud. It's why before getting elected, he said that people that burn the flag are one of our most important First Amendment protected rights, should have their citizenship stripped from them, which is insane. And I would also probably try to undermine the current sitting president and the current sitting Congress by telling them that they're not allowed to get things done on the border, because if we keep that as a real problem, it'll help me in the next election cycle, which is why we weren't able to pass any bipartisan border legislation to actually fix the asylum problem that we have right now, that the current government's hands are tied on.
Despite the fact that it was so similar to the last Republican bill. I should have added that at the end, but...
Ted?
I just, most of that is just absolutely risible. He loves himself more than anything, any other human being on the planet. Yeah, that's why he's facing 730 years in prison right now because he wants to be president again. He could have just gone off back to his private life, running his businesses. But no, he actually said a few days ago, I'm prepared to go to jail and make that sacrifice any day because the Constitution is more important than my freedom. That sounds like a very selfish individual, absolutely.
Do you not think, though, I think it's a fair critique to say that Donald Trump is narcissistic, and so he would want to go back because he feels that he was badly treated. The reason he didn't get re-elected was the election was stolen, and he wants to show the world that it's a personal ambition project rather than
at the cost of going to prison.
Well, some people want to sacrifice themselves so everyone can see how they've been badly treated because they're so obsessed with, looking
Look,
right.
I'm glad we're so good at psychoanalyzing people from the outside.
Just saying.
I like how it moved from me attacking Trump to him trying to defend Trump and then failing to defend Trump and then criticizing the analysis of Donald Trump. That was funny. Like, you notice the shift there? Like, initially, I think Donald Trump loves America. Really? I think he's a self-absorbed narcissist. Well, I don't think that's entirely true. And he's like, well, it kind of is true. He's like, oh, now we're psychoanalyzing him? It's like, okay, dude.
Because they're so obsessed with, looking
Look,
right.
I'm glad we're so good at psychoanalyzing people from the outside.
Just saying, that's what a lot of people would think.
But let's look at the facts. He wouldn't be where he is today if he wasn't running again. That's just, we know that.
Do you think these retards can even keep up with all your points in this conversations? These people literally live and breathe in one-liners. I vote Trump because one little black boy says I love Trump. Have you thought about trying to respond in simpler and more poignant counters? I don't really want to play that game of doing the rhetorical response. Maybe what I could do is just remind the audience that, well, he didn't respond to this or that, so I'll assume I'm right, instead of erasing my notes, moving to the next thing. Maybe that would be more effective, maybe.
This is an attempt to steal an election.
Actually, I should do that. Wait, rhetorical, what do we have? Strat. Because people don't usually respond to everything I say. That is true. They pick one thing and then go off on their own tangent. Whereas I try to respond to everything the other person says.
Election before any vote is cast. Whether it's the Fannie Willis corrupt prosecutor in Georgia, whether it's the person, Letitia James or Alvin Bragg, funded by George Soros during their campaigns, because sadly we elect these people in America, and who campaigned on putting President Trump in prison. How perverse is that? And with regards to, he did it all for himself.
Your last debate with Omar, you went super hard. Why not do that here? Or were you feeling Gorka out? Did I really go super hard? I think I dropped 2 F-bombs. I don't think I went super hard in that debate, though. Or you're probably a newer fan, so maybe it seemed like I went super hard. I don't think but also, I was getting 2 if you went really hard there. And this is a topic that I now have extensive information about. And it's a thing that, I don't really care what Omar's opinion of me is. And if Ryan hates me, I don't think he would hate me personally. He seems to be pretty professional, but...
Trump in prison. How perverse is that? And with regards to, he did it all for himself, and he did nothing for America or destroyed America. Do you have any idea how much energy costs?
You use the phrase, he's not even going to answer a lot. Do you think that's rhetorically effective? To me, it sometimes sounds like you're trying to drown out their answer, even though they won't actually answer. I don't know. I mean, I feel like I have to point it out. He's not going to answer my question. I think I have to. I think with Omar, I feel like it was effective, because I feel like a lot of people were saying that, oh, he didn't engage, but I don't know who knows. I have to be able to point that out somehow, though. You did not answer my question. But the problem is if I don't cut them off and if I wait, then they get to do a whole ramble where they're doing damage to me. And then I was like, well, you didn't answer the question. And then they'll do a whole other ramble where they do damage to me. And then I'll say, we didn't answer. The problem with countering what they're saying with you didn't answer the question is that it gives them the opportunity to ramble more. And rambling is your number one tool in these conversations, because you're not actually engaging with what I'm saying critically. You're just getting your talking points out. So I've got to be really careful, not letting people ramble. That's why I don't ask people simple questions anymore, because when I do, it just lets them ramble a ton.
Destroyed America. Do you have any idea how much energy costs went up under the Trump administration, just for average families?
The president doesn't influence energy costs that much.
He does when he shuts down fracking and all licenses for oil exploration on federal lands. Don't divert.
U.S. oil production is at an all-time high, so that's
absolutely not true. It is. Not true.
It is. We're energy independent right now.
Okay, you're making stuff up. Okay.
People
how much did energy go up? Do you know, under Trump?
Are we counting the last year under COVID when the entire world was slowing down?
Over 4 years, how much did energy go up? Do you know?
I'm not sure.
4%. Do you know how much has gone up in the last 3.5 years under Biden?
I'm not sure.
28%. Who's destroying America?
So, but that's also a global trend. Inflation.
But also, it's a function of
affects.
what we created. When we were in the Trump administration, for the first time in our history, we were net exporters of energy. Think about what that does for the lifeblood.
I don't know what people get this. I don't know where they get this talking point from. I don't even know like I don't know where this idea that we're not producing energy or not producing oil or whatever like comes from. Like our exports are at like all-time highs right now. Our production is at all-time highs right now. Like I just, our imports are at all-time lows right now. Like I don't know where, I don't even know what else to say. You're just objectively wrong. You're just wrong. I'm like arguing with a guy who's telling me that the sky is purple. I don't know what to say. I don't know how I can possibly counter. Well, I know what the counter is. Or I'm sorry, I understand now because I was too busy living in, when he brought up the energy and shit, I started thinking like math and not math. I started thinking like factually. What I should have remembered is a long time ago, I think Obama was stalling permits on drilling or fracking on federal land or something, which I don't even know if that comprises the majority of all the drilling or whatever. I don't think it does, or like new permits basically. It wasn't stopping all drilling and fracking on federal land. It was like new permits or whatever. And I think Trump wanted to restart these or did, but I think Biden largely has as well. I don't think Biden stopped any of this. And the US today is like doing more like oil exporting than we ever have. Like, and our energy production is higher than it ever has been. It's just wrong. You're just wrong. You're factually incorrect.
We were net exporters of energy. Think about what that does for the lifeblood. An economy requires energy. I know it's a scary, evil thing for the left.
I feel like it's one of the few times you can ask for a source without sounding like an autist. No, well, I like having people to fact check in a debate. That actually feels really good. What debate did I do where they did that? It wasn't with Emily and Ryan, right? Ryan said he was going to fact check me on a thing and then didn't say anything because he was wrong. I feel like I was in a debate recently where somebody was like fact checking. Maybe it was a little bit on breaking points where Emily would come in and say something. Maybe.
But oil and gas is how you run an economy. It's how you get food to people. So when we became the first time ever a net exporter, or talk about the other aspects of the economy, we had the lowest unemployment for minorities in the United States.
That's not true anymore. This is an old Trump talking point, but I'm pretty sure even minority and unemployment, that number that they love to hold on to so much, is better under Biden. But it's even lower than it should be, really. People think that like unemployment should be 0%. Our unemployment is really low right now.
Since record keeping began, and the lowest unemployment for women for 70 years. Look at what we have today. I mean, it's absolute. The fact that most...
Why is it that every time you debate these people with high levels of education, you destroy them? Does it black pill you towards intellectualism and higher education? Well, it's more, you just have to understand what this guy's doing. This guy is a political operative that worked for Trump, and he wants to get another job in the next Trump White House. So our education is not really relevant here. My guess, hopefully, listening to him speak and everything, my guess is going to be that if you pull him out of a hardcore political environment and give him stuff to analyze as an educated person, he probably could do a pretty decent job. But he's just got to repeat. He's like in a job interview right now for the next Trump White House. That's what he's doing, right? Can you not just ask, what did Trump do exactly to make energy only rise 4% instead of 20% under Biden? Like legislation or policies? I think that comes up later, but...
Families in this nation cannot handle a $500 emergency. They don't have $500 worth of cash. That's why Harlem is shouting, "We love you, Trump." I don't know if you saw President Trump after he had to leave the court last week. He delivered pizzas to the firefighters in Manhattan.
Like, what is this? Jesus Christ. Well, fuck me. He gave pizzas to firefighters in Manhattan? Fuck me, I guess. Like,
it's really interesting to watch that video, not just of how he was received by those people who run into fires to save Americans. One of the firefighters actually audibly says in the background, "Save us, Mr. Trump." That doesn't happen if the man's selfish and if the economy's absolutely superb. It happens when you let in 8 million illegals in 3.5 years to crush the working man and woman in America.
Stephen, even as a fair observer, you would have to say, and feel free to come back on the point Seb made as well, but the immigration...
Wait, what is this?
Yesterday, Donald Trump staged another scam.
The music.
Yesterday, Donald Trump staged another scam pretending to deliver pizzas to firefighters in New York. It turns out he actually re-delivered already delivered pizzas to the fire department. So you see at 5:34 p.m., 2 pizzas arrive. At 5:41 p.m., you see 6 more pizzas arrive. At 5:54 p.m., you see a staffer set aside 2 pizzas. Then at 5:57 p.m., you see a staffer walk 2 pizzas to Trump as Donald Trump arrives to the location. At 5:58 p.m., Donald Trump arrives to the location, and you see him accept the pizzas from the staffer and then re-deliver them to the firefighters. And you can see the way Donald Trump is even handling these pizzas, that if there is anything even in these boxes, these pizzas are completely destroyed. The cheese is everywhere. It's a total mess. Then at 6:01 p.m., you see Donald Trump inspecting the pizzas. At 6:10 p.m., Trump leaves the cold pizza there and leaves the photo op. Another successful scam.
Wait, okay. I feel like the nice thing is just that the ex-president is handing us pizzas. Was the original did Republicans or did Trump claim that he picked these pizzas up and hand-delivered them? Was that the original claim? I don't care. Yes? There's no way they originally claimed that, right? I don't believe that. Why do people act like unemployment isn't a market that needs equilibrium in order to function properly? Every time I hear someone hail low unemployment, they act like it's meant to be a score in a game, because nobody believes in equilibrium in any market. Unemployment should be zero, minimum wage should be max money, everything should be like people don't recognize every economic thing has two sides to it, right? Every trade has a buyer and a seller, basically. Probably, actually, definitionally. There's always a buyer and a seller or a trader at least in every transaction. But people don't like to think of that. They only see things as one-sided. That's why you see the demonization of people that are on one side. And if the other guy is a demon, well, then, of course, on your side, it should be as low as possible. Rent should be as low as humanly possible, $1 each, because who's on the other side of that? Landlords? Basically Satan. Why the fuck would we care about what their takeaway is? What would be the point of making him show with pizza if not to make people think he was the one bringing the pizza to them? Isn't it just like a nice, fun thing? Like, oh, Donald Trump is like, oh, cute. He's like handing us a pizza. Like if I was outside a canvassing event and people delivered pizza, if I would like pick up some boxes to bring it in, it'd be like, oh, Destiny has pizza for us. Is the implication that like, yes, I picked these up myself from the place and I drove them down to you guys? Like, do you feel like you'll never get a good representative for highly educated people in these spaces? I mean this respectfully in regards to the perception of the academics themselves, but most successful and educated people on a given subject probably won't be debating about it on TV, shows, or the internet, right? Yeah, kind of, yeah. The people here are like politicians, or they're like audience captured, more so than like a researcher will be. That is true, yeah. But I mean, I blame academia for that. They should be more involved in these worlds.
And as a fair observer, you would have to say, and feel free to come back on the point Seb made as well, but the immigration issue, the illegal immigration issue, seems to be much, much worse under President Biden. Would you agree with that?
Yes, we're facing unique issues right now, yeah.
So why would you want to re-elect a man who has allowed this many illegal immigrants in, despite the fact that I think it's fair to say the vast majority of Americans agree that this shouldn't be happening?
I think that when it comes to border stuff or immigration stuff, I think that most of the disagreement, I think for America, I think we generally agree on most things for what the immigration policy should look like. The problem is we have a very unique problem right now at the border relating to asylum seeking, and the federal government's hands are tied in terms of how you can deal with those people. So with the way that the law works right now, if you're an illegal immigrant and you come up to the border, you see that like the encounters have gone up dramatically. Well, so is the actual catch rate of people coming in. Like, not that many people are sneaking past the border guards. The reason why is because you don't have to actually sneak into the country anymore. You just have to show up between a port of entry, or maybe even at a port of entry now, and go, hey, I'm here to seek asylum. And once you've done that, it's like a get out of jail free card, and you're basically, they have to take you in, they have to process you because of how the federal laws on the books are right now.
Wait, I need to check this out because I said because I don't remember exactly. Can you seek asylum between ports of entry? Can you seek asylum between ports of entry? Actually, this might be in my notes somewhere. Let me check real quick. Wait. Search. Port. Entry. Okay, asylum. Refugees and asylum seekers. Refugees need a well-founded fear of persecution due to race, membership, they apply for admission from outside of the U.S. This is for a refugee, but asylees, available persons already in the U.S. based on the same 5 protected grounds. For refugees, they can apply at a port of entry at the time they seek admission or within 1 year of arriving. Okay, so they can literally just come to up to the normal border guard and say, hey, I want to seek asylum. Okay, yes, all right. Which is a huge problem, by the way, because then you have to process them as asylees.
And then because we don't have enough judges to actually go through all the cases, you're given basically a slip. You're saying, hey, please show up for your trial. And then you basically release them into the country. Some people will try to say that like Biden does catch and release, or we have like a catch and release law. But we don't really. It's like a combination of pretty complicated things on the books for how we deal with asylum seekers. Now, Biden and the Democrats in Congress wanted to deal with this, but Trump was literally telling Republicans in Congress, do not touch the border issue. That's why the bipartisan bill that Republicans had largely approved of a few years earlier got completely shut down, because Republicans don't want to close this issue. Again, in classic Trump fashion, which is putting Trump ahead of the country, we didn't do anything about the border because Trump was telling Republicans not to fix a particular issue because he wants to win re-election. That's an issue that Biden and the Democrats tried to solve.
I should remember the name of the Republican that drafted this bill. What was the name of the senator who was irritated? Does anybody remember? Name of senator drafted immigration bill. We saw him on CNN Express. Oh, was it Lankford? I should have remembered this name. I need to do better at remembering names. I think he was pretty ass mad. Because I think he was the main person that had drafted this bill up initially, right?
You're a real gentleman about this, and I know you're not trying to zing your colleagues, but it's your colleagues in your party, sir, who torpedoed this, who didn't get the facts right on what you just outlined was in that measure. They killed it. Ironically, not Democrats.
Right. It was, and it was painful to be able to watch it. It got stirred up in all the presidential politics, and several of my colleagues started looking for ways. After President Trump said, don't fix anything during the presidential election, it's the single biggest issue during the election, don't resolve this, we'll resolve it next year. Quite a few of my colleagues backed up, looked for a reason to be able to shoot against it, and then walked away. I get that. That's a decision everybody makes in it.
And this isn't even a conspiracy, right? Like, this is like openly stated. This isn't conspiratorial. It's just like, this is what was said. Like, Trump made the statements publicly. McConnell and other people have made the statements publicly. Like, this is all public. None of this is like, you don't need to do any digging or inferencing. It's like all public.
My issue is if we're pursuing everything, we very often end up with nothing. If we're pursuing someone coming later to fix it, later seems to never come. When we have a moment to fix things, we should fix as many things as we can then come back later and fix the rest.
That's on Donald Trump, Senator.
Again, he's got an office that he's running for. He's got a campaign that he's running. I'm already in office. I've got a responsibility to be able to carry on this. I think everybody cares about the future of the country. President Trump has a bigger picture of a lot of other issues he's looking for. If we have a President Biden again, this never gets any better. And I think President Trump sees this as a moment that if this gets fixed, then maybe a few people don't vote. And then we have a whole host of other issues in the future. Again, he's got a task he's taken on, respectful. I've also got a task I've got to do. I've got to actually get this fixed.
Got it. Senator,
This is a politically masterminded response. My God, this guy was literally, is it Ocean's 12 or was it an Ocean's 11? Breakdancing laser scene. It was Ocean's 12.
Right, with no...
Like, literally through this answer. So how is it that Donald Trump is doing something horrible for the United States? Well, it's not that it's horrible. It's just that, like, Donald Trump has to run for president, and there are other issues that need to get fixed. So if we fix the border issue now, then it would mean that other issues won't get fixed in the future. But since I'm already elected, I have to fix the border issue now. So it makes sense that our incentives will be misaligned. But they're actually totally aligned because Donald Trump is looking, because if Biden gets elected, it's actually going to be bad for other issues. Like, oh my fucking God. Jesus Christ.
So long to get some of these other 8 Republicans persuaded to your position here? Was it the overall nature of this bill and what was lost in that time period for Ukraine?
Well, that's a good question. You already know the answer. I think the demonization of Ukraine began by...
Destiny is full TDS, and I love it. The number one victims of TDS are people that have TDSS, okay?
Carlson, who, in my opinion, ended up where he should have been all along, which is interviewing Vladimir Putin. And so he had an enormous audience, which convinced a lot of rank-and-file Republicans that maybe this was a mistake. I think the former president had sort of mixed views on it.
Well, TDS stands for Trump Derangement Syndrome. And there's a lot of people with Trump Derangement Syndrome, where every time they see a criticism of Donald Trump, they say that somebody else has Trump Derangement Syndrome. In reality, they have TDSS, or they have another version of TDS called Trump Dick Riding Syndrome. But
The president had sort of mixed views on it. We all felt that border was a complete disaster, myself included. And Chad, you remember covering the phases we went through. First, there was an effort to make law, which requires you to deal with Democrats. And then a number of our members thought it wasn't good enough. And then our nominee for president didn't seem to want us to do anything at all. That took months to work our way through it. So we ended up doing the supplemental that was originally proposed, which dealt with not all problems. It didn't solve the border problem, but certainly addressed the growing threats at the moment.
anyway.
Oh, but we couldn't do it.
And look, I want to hear Seb's answer to that and other things you're about to say. But just, I can tell you someone, look, I was born in the former Soviet Union. I don't live in America. I can promise you this unique set of...
Hold on, just real quick, you anti-American and I hope your entire family gets evicted from this country, you disgusting un-American piece of shit. Why wouldn't he fix the border for Biden? Why? It's not about fixing the border for Biden, okay? You anti-American nitwit. When you're in Congress, your constituents are the American people and you're supposed to do things for the benefit of the American people, not for future politicians, okay? Off yourself. Holy shit. If this was the Tea Party, you'd be going overboard with the boxes and you'd be tied to them.
The Soviet Union. I don't live in America. I can promise you this unique set of circumstances that you're talking about, like every other country in the world, pretty much except Western Europe, is able to have a border, right? You can't just turn up to the border of Russia or China and like walk in and then be like, oh, can I please? That's not how it works. It's not, look, the idea that a country has a border has not been controversial for that.
Nobody disagrees with this. These are such boring talking points. We need a border. Yeah, who are the open borders people? The 21-year-old white kids that all are identifying as Palestinian on college campuses? Nobody is pro open borders in the U.S. No people in Congress, no presidents, like even the majority of the Democratic Party. Nobody's open borders. There's a meme. There's a meme position.
Very long. This is a very new thing. And the fact that the number of people has skyrocketed since President Biden was elected, you can't put that on the Republicans.
I'm not putting anything on the Republicans. What I'm saying is what I'm putting on them is the refusal to fix the actual issue, which is passing legislation to do it. And the last huge bipartisan bill that died in the House was supposed to increase the amount of judges we have to work through asylum seekers. It was supposed to change the standards that we would use to evaluate people claiming asylum. And it would have increased funding basically for every part of the
Wouldn't it be
security.
easy to just erect a physical barrier that prevents people from going into this country
No!
except at a port of entry?
No, it wouldn't do anything.
Why not?
This is the frustrating thing, because the issue is what I said. The issue, if you look at the vast majority of people that are coming in and you talk about things like catch and release, it's asylum seekers. These are laws on the books that have to change. You can go to a border right now as an illegal immigrant and just like, hey, I'm like claiming asylum. Can I come in?
It's nothing to do with laws.
And then that's the issue that you have when you're trying to deal with our current immigration issue is the asylum seeking process. And you say that like, well, other countries have borders and they don't have to deal with this. When the Syrian refugee crisis happened, I'm sure you remember, because I think it was probably a big motivating factor for Brexit. Even if it was in the background, there were tons of refugees that were streaming into Europe, and there was a huge crisis. You saw a lot of right-wing parties gain popularity because of how unhappy people were. In Sweden, you've still got residual issues relating to those immigrants. You had the AfD rising in popularity in Germany. You had Marine Le Pen becoming popular again in France.
I totally agree with you.
Yeah.
But the problem is that all of those decisions about letting those people in, they were political decisions. And that's why people are frustrated, because the decision to allow 1 million refugees into Germany was a political decision, after which Angela Merkel admitted that multiculturalism doesn't work.
Has Angela Merkel ever said that? What is the source for that quote? I'm curious. Angela Merkel. I wish I had more background for this. Multiculturalism has failed. Is that what the quote was? Hold on. Or what?
Decision, after which Angela Merkel admitted that multiculturalism doesn't work.
Multiculturalism doesn't work. Chancellor's assertion that onus is on new arrivals to do more to integrate into German society serves anti-immigration debate. This was in 2010. This is before the Syrian refugee crisis, so this couldn't have possibly been in reference to it. Was it something else? Hold on.
People are frustrated because the decision to allow 1 million refugees into Germany was a political decision, after which Angela Merkel admitted that multiculturalism...
Okay, so the timeline is wrong here. I wonder what this is in response to. Is quoted growing anti-immigrant, claiming the country's attempts to create a multicultural state have utterly failed. Speaking to a meeting... Okay. Hold on. So, okay. I'm curious what the full quote is here, okay? Sanctuary cities are not politicians doing what is best for their constituents either, to be fair. That is not just a thing the GOP does. Why do you think that? What do you mean, Bill Bradley? What do you mean it's not doing... Do you think that sanctuary cities aren't like approved by the people that live in those cities? Where do you think the mayors get their right to do anything from? How do you think they get into office? Angela Merkel. So the title is German Multiculturalism Has Utterly Failed. Now, in this paragraph here, we got Angela Merkel claimed the country's attempts to create a multicultural society have utterly failed. I'm curious what the actual full quote is. Speaking to a meeting of young members of her Christian Democratic Union Party, Merkel said the idea of people from different cultural backgrounds living happily side by side did not work. She said the onus was on immigrants to do more to integrate into German society. The multicultural approach has failed, utterly failed. Okay, so now the multicultural approach has failed, utterly failed. Merkel told the meeting in Potsdam, west of Berlin yesterday. Her remarks will stir a debate about immigration in a country which is home to around 4 million Muslims. Last week, this guy said, Here it says, Merkel said too little had been required of immigrants in the past and repeated her arguments that they should learn German in order to cope in school and take advantage of opportunities in the labor market. This is reasonable. Doesn't that mean that they added the word and that she didn't even say it? Well, that's what it seems like. Yeah, this headline is pretty sensational. What did Chancellor Merkel mean when she said multiculturalism has failed? She used the word multiculti, which is used to mean a particular type of multiculturalism, one in which different cultures are considered equal but remain separate. Also, the full quote is, the way multiculti has been approached has failed, completely failed. She went on to say that one should not only support migrants, but make demands on them as well. In the same speech, she also declared that Islam is a part of Germany. Jesus. I wish I would have had this background. Are there any German speakers in here that can confirm this, though? Like... I don't speak German, so I can't. Because this sounds, just going by what this person is explaining, that seems to jive more with her saying that too little has been required of immigrants in the past and repeated her argument they should learn German in order to cope in school, so that immigrants should do more. German source from 2019 translated. Okay. This is translated from German? Well, this isn't a transcript of anything. It seems like more or less the same type of article now. It's an interesting speech because it very clearly demonstrates the pitfalls of using sound bites and selective quoting. If you want to paint Angela Merkel as a xenophobe, you quote her as saying multiculturalism has failed. If you want to paint her as a traitor to the fatherland, helping Muslims to invade and wipe out the indigenous culture, you quote her as saying Islam is a part of Germany. It seems, if you look at the entire speech, that she was saying that Germany has done multiculturalism wrong. She thinks, or at least at the time she made the speech, thought that migrants should be encouraged to integrate more. They don't need to completely abandon their own culture, but they must adapt the German way of life. That sounds reasonable. Is there a link to the whole speech? Like... Angela Merkel, multiculturalism, failed, Islam, Germany, part. If it was a speech, there should be a transcript somewhere.
In Frankfurt am Main ist bei den Kindern unter 5 Jahren von 3 Kindern.
In Frankfurt am Main, 2 out of 3 children under the age of 5 have an immigrant background.
Haben 2 einen Migrationshintergrund. Und wir sind ein
We're
Land,
a country which, at the beginning of the 60s, actually
Anfang
brought
der
guest
60er
workers
Jahre
to Germany.
Mitarbeiter nach Deutschland.
Now they live with us, and we lied to ourselves for a while, saying that they won't stay and that they will have disappeared again one day. That's not the reality. This multicultural approach, saying that we simply live side by side and are happy about each other, this approach has failed, utterly failed. We should not be a country that gives the impression to the outside world that those who don't speak German immediately or who were not raised speaking German are not welcome here. That would do great damage to our country. Companies will go elsewhere because they won't find the people to work here anymore. That means that the demand for integration is one of our key tasks for the times to come. At the same time, it must be a German trademark to be a country that gives people here an opportunity. Okay, this sounds reasonable. This is why I don't trust anything. I feel like I can't trust anything I read, ever, anywhere, ever. Assuming this is the speech that this is coming from, and it looks like it is, October 17th, 2010. German speaker translation multicultural is very difficult because the meaning can somewhat change depending on who speaks and on what context. In this case, I'd say multicultural done cynically. Okay, whatever. Do you think that exporting the American idea of national identity has been a bad part of American imperialism since 1776? Anyone can be an American, but only since World War II, but only post-World War II did Europe bring immigrants. Seems like an overnight forcible change of identity, no? I don't think that that's true at all, but I don't know enough history, but intuitively, I'm pretty sure what you're saying is completely and totally fucking wrong. But I don't know the detailed history enough, but listen, we will once we finish reading all of our World War I stuff, okay? Okay, well, whatever, Jesus.
It doesn't work. It's not like the countries fail to have a border. It's that politicians choose to create a situation where millions of people flood into the United States.
I agree, but that's the choice that Trump and the Republicans have made right now when we've said, hey, we can change this with bipartisan infrastructure, or with bipartisan immigration legislation. It was on the books. It wasn't on the books. It was a bill. It was ready to be passed. It would have addressed all of these issues. But Trump told Republicans, do not pass this bill. I need this as an election issue. And he didn't, even though this...
Hold on. It does seem like she was essentially criticizing the number of refugees and how it was done, which was the contention here from Constantine anyway, right? No. When you're quoting, no, fuck you. That's too much charitability. No. The quote, the way that he said it, and in the context of this, made it seem like the number needs to dramatically decrease, okay? When you have conversations about immigration or integrating refugees or immigrants, the conversation is a sophisticated one. It's not just a matter of number. It's not just a matter of multiculturalism, good or bad. It's a matter of how do you integrate people in a responsible way into your society. That's what it seems like Angela Merkel was getting at. The idea of just, and it sounds like she was referring to the idea of, we brought a bunch of workers here in the 60s, we thought that we could just live side by side and do no integration, and we thought they'd eventually leave, and clearly that doesn't work. That concept is dead. That multiculturalism, the idea that you've got multiple separate distinct cultures in your society working and thriving together, that's not true. We need people to learn German so they can get jobs, so they can be integrated into our economy and into our culture. That's what it sounds like she was saying. Not, multiculturalism is dead, so all brown immigrants need to be banned, which is your retarded takeaway from it. That's what it sounds like the issue was, right? It feels like when somebody makes a statement that requires a bit of analysis, it's like you're getting sparkling, pure fucking Britannica tap water, whatever the fuck, but you have to pour it into a toilet filled with diarrhea before you can take a drink. Like that's the filtering that you're doing on some of these statements. Oh, they said immigration bad. Sorry.
This bill had, I wish I could do not pass this bill. I need this as an election issue.
If they refuse to do that, then what? Then kick them the fuck out. If you can't learn a language, I think language is important. I think you should have to speak the language where you go. I think that's an important thing. That's my personal take. Anything else? I don't give a fuck. You want to have your holidays? Your women want to wear keeper suits? You want to cut your children's off or whatever for circumcision people? Actually, I am opposed to that one. But if you want to do any other weird whatever shit, go for it. But I think you should probably speak a language in a country. I think that's pretty important. Unless you're Canadian, French, and Quebec.
Issues, but it was on the books. It wasn't on the books. It was a bill. It was ready to be passed. It would have addressed all of these issues. But Trump told Republicans, do not pass this bill. I need this as an election issue. And he didn't, even though this bill had, I wish I could remember the name of the Republican that had co-authored
Langford.
this, but this is like basically a Republican authored bill that would have fixed all of these problems.
I want to give you more time on the other points. But
I will say one also, just so please.
We're truly honored to be partnered with Monk Debates, the place where the world's leading thinkers debate the most pressing issues of our time. The next Monk debate is one I promise you will not want to miss. The motion is anti-Zionism anti-Semitism? On June 17, British commentator and trigonometry favorite Douglas Murray and international legal expert Natasha Hausdorff will debate former MSNBC anchor Mehdi Hassan and Israeli journalist and critic Gideon Levy.
Cool.
To find out how to become a member and watch the debate...
You should do ad reads edited into the cut like this when the guest is gone. What? Like do an ad read while I'm debating? Like just say like, hey...
live, go to
The USA doesn't have an official language at all, should it though? I feel like we should for English, but that's just me, yeah.
www.monkdebates.com. And now, on with the show.
conservatives love to bring up the lowest unemployment for minorities under Trump and blah, blah, blah. We have the lowest unemployment for minorities right now under Biden. The idea that you would look at unemployment and use that as like a win for Trump, when unemployment under Biden has been the lowest that it has been in all of U.S. history. And it's after rebuilding an economy, not like soaring ahead of like historically low interest rates year after year after year, which kind of led into a lot of the issues that we experienced with inflation and having to tighten up interest rates and everything. The economy under Biden has done exceedingly well. It would be nice if we had a Democrat come into office that wasn't trying to clean up the mess of the last conservative. We had Obama come in after the end of Bush's presidency, which was the 2007 housing crisis, which was like an international financial issue. And then we had Biden come in after Trump's horrible mishandling of COVID. It would be nice if we could actually get a Democrat to come in and run a clean 4 years instead of cleaning up the mess of the last conservative and then still trying to compete on things.
Seb, obviously you heard my interjections about immigration, and I think they're fair, certainly from my perspective. But the one thing I have also heard, including from many Republicans who might be mutual friends of ours or people who are high up in the Republican Party, is that Donald Trump is playing politics with these issues right now in order that he has a better chance of winning. Do you accept that?
No, I don't. Let's talk about this canard that the left wants to fix this. And they had legislation that a rhino, a fake conservative, sponsored in the Senate.
Anytime you hear somebody say rhino, that should be like a key indicator to you that that person is deeply unserious, because all of the Trump movement are rhinos. Like, these people are, well, I mean, like, the idea that you're rhino stands for Republican in name only, and it used to be what Republicans would call disloyal Republicans. But the entire conservative movement under Trump is unlike any of like the conservatism that existed prior to Trump. So the idea that you would call like traditional Republicans rhinos when you are more out of step historically than what Republicans have ever stood for is just hilariously ironic to me. Just calling people rhinos because they don't agree with you is like so dumb. Like, if you want to do an analysis like, well, who's a real Republican? Nothing about Trump stands for what Republicans used to stand for. So if anything, is like, it's just so dumb.
Is that Donald Trump is playing politics with these issues right now in order that he has a better chance of winning. Do you accept that?
No, I don't. Let's talk about this canard that the left wants to fix this.
Wait, hold on. The Republican Party has their problems within, like the Democrats have theirs with progressives? No, that is not even remotely close. The Democratic Party does not have a problem with progressives. Progressives are not preventing us from holding a seat, a majority seat in the fucking House. Progressives are not destroying our ability to govern effectively. Progressives are not eating our party alive from the inside. Progressives are fucking annoying on Twitter, and they look bad on news because they're young kids. Donald Trump and the Trumples are like leading the conservative party off of a fucking cliff. That party is destroying itself right now. So the idea that, progressives are having the same impact in the Democratic Party. Like, progressives don't even like AOC anymore. They have no representation whatsoever on the lawmaking side, at least federally.
And they had legislation that a rhino, a fake conservative, sponsored in the Senate. The legislation stated that if you sign this into law, you will allow at least 5,000 illegals into America every 24 hours.
This is what I was taking issue when that other guy came in here. He was saying, well, no, he was just explaining the cap differently. Bullshit. This phrasing makes it sound like we're trying to he's saying at least. That sounds like a cap to you? Fuck no. That is bullshit. And I reject the framing of Charlie when he came here and argued that. He's making it sound like the goal was at least 5,000 a day. That's bullshit.
At least 5,000 illegals into America every 24 hours. Of course, we're going to say that's garbage, that's insanity. The idea that they, in good faith, want to fix this. Let's just look. In preparation for today, I called up the former Commissioner of Customs and Border Protection, and I asked him, what is the situation like? Let's just talk about one statistic, because 8 million illegals, it's hard to even fathom. In the last 3.5 years, they have intercepted 47,000 felons.
Okay, I don't know what this has to do with anything, but I wouldn't mind seeing your proof of your claim about Trump. I'm genuinely curious. I'm always wanting to learn. I feel like you got better sources, and you know where to look better than me. What source about Trump?
At the border. These are criminals coming into America. That is a 99% increase over our 4 years in government. Let's just say 100% increase. Besides that, they've found 160,000 felons, convicted felons in America, including 4,700 murderers and 8,000 gang members, one of whom murdered a beautiful 22-year-old nursing student called Laken Riley in Georgia, a man who murdered her after he was asyleed in...
should I even like call this out? Or what is this when we're just talking in stories? Okay.
...into America by Joe Biden's system, was then arrested for endangerment of a minor in New York, and Alvin Bragg, the Democrat DA of New York...
Oh my God. Debate pervertry. I have to make an entry just because that's such a good thing. Death by 1,000 anecdotes. Cute.
...led him onto the street so he could murder this 22-year-old. Let's be clear. They created this. You're right. It's policy decisions. My parents were real refugees, real asylum seekers, because if my dad had gone back to the land of his birth as an escaped prisoner from a communist prison, he would have been shot on sight. You can't say 8 million political prisoners are coming across the border into America. And let's just use the stats of the left. The United Nations, hardly a hard MAGA entity. Human Rights Watch, not exactly America First. What have these organizations stated about the deluge, the invasion of illegals across our border under Biden? Between 50 and 60% of the girls and the women are being raped or sexually assaulted by...
I don't even know where this comes from. Should I look this up? 50% of women coming across the border being raped? 50%? That sounds like a really, really, really high number.
The coyotes, by the human traffickers. It is absolutely empirically a statement of fact that Joe Biden has become the largest human trafficker in human history. The party of...
Didn't you say before that the Gish Gallop isn't as effective as people think, as long as you can pick apart a few of their talking points? That's true, but it requires a bit of... Do I want to say bad faith? There are bad faith ways to counter Gish Gallops, and one bad faith way to counter a Gish Gallop is to just pick the weakest talking point and go in on it, essentially. But I don't like to do that because I want to respond to everything. I don't want to just pick. I have factual response for everything. I don't need to engage in that like rhetorical counter. I just need to make sure I remind people that the other person is not engaging with what I'm saying.
Come on, sir.
No.
Come on. He's not
numerically.
Come on.
Numerically.
No, that's not what I'm disputing. I'm disputing the idea that he is a human trafficker.
Totally. His policies.
It's happening under his watch.
His decision. Let's talk about what he said.
No, hold on. But he's not a human trafficker.
He is.
That's ridiculous.
His policies have made his government empirically. You can't argue with 12,000 illegals a day. 12,000!
To call someone a human trafficker implies they're doing it on purpose. Come on.
They are doing it on purpose. I'll tell you why.
What did he say?
To call someone...
You can't argue with 12,000 illegals a day. 12,000!
To call someone a human trafficker implies they're doing it on purpose. Come on.
They are doing it on purpose. I'll tell you why.
I need to fight against this perception as well. You're not letting in illegal immigrants. Like, as it stands right now in the United States, we allow in 0 illegal immigrants per day. None are allowed in. They're illegal. That's what an illegal immigrant means. An asylum seeker is not the same thing as an illegal immigrant. Somebody could abuse the asylee process, but that doesn't make them an illegal immigrant. And letting somebody in under the asylum process doesn't mean you're letting in illegal immigrants. It's not really true.
Because they are so bigoted and so racist. Remember, this is the Democrat Party, the party of the KKK.
Oh, and then we do all the standard talking points.
The party of the Jim Crow laws. This is the party that, whose activist murdered the first Republican president, Lincoln, the great emancipator. This is the DNA of the Democrats. The Democrats are so fundamentally bigoted. They believe if we let in millions of illegals because they're brown-skinned, because they're black-skinned, when we amnesty them and give them naturalization and citizenship, they will vote for us because of their skin color. This is CRT at its core, critical race theory, and that's why they're doing it. This isn't an accident. You don't open the borders an accident. You know that.
Open the borders. Is there any punishment for abusing the asylum process? So I'm not sure if there is. However, chances are you don't really want there to be punishment for abusing the asylum process. Like, think about what that means. If somebody abuses the asylum process, at worst, you'd probably just want to add their name to a list so they can't come back into the country. But do you want to jail these people? Like, if you got 1 million people coming to the border falsely claiming asylum, do you want to pay to keep 1 million of them in jail? Like that, you don't want to have that type of shit set up. You could try to fine them, I guess, but then what if they can't pay the fine? Are you going to jail them and keep them in the country? Like, if somebody abuses the product, you just want to kick them out and probably add them to a list and say you can't come back. That's probably the most you can do, which might already happen. I'm not sure. Yeah, but that's usually. But I mean, the punishment is you're going to be rejected and sent back. You know.
That. And this isn't because of humanitarian stuff. Let's talk about why it's happening technically and why he is the largest human
Finish the
trafficker.
point, and then I want to say something.
How do these people come into America? Do you know what CBP-1 is, Stephen? CBP-1 is the app
Oh, this is stupid.
that illegals download on their way to America. It's funded by you and me, by American taxpayers. They're sitting in Mexico. They're sitting in the Dominican Republic. They're sitting in Afghanistan. And they download an app where they pre-clear themselves. You tick a box. I am Mickey Mouse and I'm an asylum seeker. When you cross the border, you say, hey, I'm registered, and you're let into America. That's deliberate, Konstantin. That's not accidental, that's deliberate. And these people aren't political refugees.
Okay. Why didn't you build a wall when you had the chance?
Oh
We
my
tried
God,
to,
the
we were
wall.
stymied consistent. You know what President Trump had to do? This is the insanity. The protestations from the establishment were hysterical. We had to repurpose DOD funds and say the border is actually a national security issue if you've got terrorists coming.
Completely off topic answer. Completely off topic, answer when you can, but thoughts on why at this current time period our country seems to be very divided on many topics. In my personal opinion, I think it's because of the internet. The internet is allowing us to filter ourselves into hyper-selected communities, which is not good. We shouldn't be able to filter that much. You need to be able to talk to people and interact with people that are different than you. And the internet is giving us the ability to avoid that.
Across the border. We had to repurpose national security funds to build the border and buy the steel to build the wall. That took us over a year. What does Joe Biden do? He comes into the administration and the steel members that we had bought to secure the border, he sold them for scrap iron. That's why
is this true? I don't even know what the fuck this is about. I have no idea. This doesn't sound like it. Sounds like a meme talking point, but
deliberate, and that's why he's a human trafficker.
The talking points are funny. I think
they are funny. I'm gonna use the restroom real quick. Hold on. Fuck. I need to put my teeth in. Why do you keep criticizing Trump's China tariffs? Hold on, wait. I'm sorry. This is fun. It's a funny question because it demonstrates my theory of mind. Why do you keep criticizing Trump's China tariffs when Biden literally introduced a bunch of new tariffs last week? That's a funny question because you reveal in your thought process that if I'm criticizing tariffs from Trump, it's because I don't like them because they're from Trump, but I would necessarily support tariffs under Biden because I would support everything that Biden does. I'm not a fan of tariffs generally ever, at least for economic reasons. I don't necessarily support tariffs under Biden, just like I don't support them under Trump. So your question is retarded because you demonstrated your own retardation in the question. One sec. Before I moved over, somebody said, the problem seems worse in the United States than other places. Okay, if I had to guess, I think that there is a bad phenomenon that happens. I've talked about this before. I haven't written anything about this yet. I'll add this sometime, okay. I think that there are times when you can have ideological congruency. So your ideas are basically the same as somebody else's. I think that this needs to adjust based on the size or locality of your group. So for instance, I would expect in a household there to be a very, 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 very high level of ideological congruency. Probably similar religion, similar many shared values, similar nationality, support for a country, similar language, similar political idea. Like for the most part, I would expect there to be a really, really high level of congruency in a particular household. I would expect there to be a very high level of congruency in a particular neighborhood, a pretty high level of congruency in a city, a pretty high level of congruency in a state, less, probably a lot less at that point, and then some level of congruency on the country. I think that the values that you have, they should become more particularized and with higher conviction the more local you get. So maybe for like the United States, maybe we have as a shared value between all US citizens, something like a support for democracy, right? And like the Constitution, I guess, maybe. Jesus fucking Christ. And then some tolerance of like different types of people or ideas or whatever. These are like, broadly speaking, these are like very broad American ideas. Maybe like in a particular state, maybe you have some shared values around like some kind of cultural things. Maybe like most people in California like surfing or something. I don't fucking know. Or like as a Californian, maybe you feel proud about your agriculture or tech sector or something. I don't know. Maybe you get to a particular city. Maybe you've got a strong feeling about like, oh, well, I'm in San Francisco. It's probably a sanctuary city, right? Maybe you feel strongly about like immigration. Maybe you feel strongly about like weed or marijuana. As you get to your particular neighborhood, maybe you guys like feel strongly about like, I don't know, block parties. I'm just picking random shit. And maybe in your household, you feel very strongly about you like Che Guevara and Mao and Stalin or some shit, whatever. You're tankies. I don't know, right? I think that the issue that we've run into today is all of these circles that you have in the past were based on real locality in like the actual real world, right? I'm next to my neighbors. I'm next to my family. I live with them. They're my family. I see my neighbors every day. I drive to work and I'm with my coworkers or my labor union people, or I see my church community every day. I read the paper. I see what's going on in my city, my state, and then eventually the country. But I think the issue that's happened right now is there's a weird perversion where people are growing this center circle so much because of the internet that now people are expecting an ideological congruency that you would have only seen in households. They're expecting that to expand like across the entire country. Like this circle has become so large for people. And the problem is you're trying to incorporate so many different types of people, so many different ethnic groups, so many different cultural groups, so many different religions, so many different people. You're trying to incorporate all of them into this circle, and it's like fucking people's minds up. And somebody said it seems worse in the US. My guess is going to be just because in the US we're just a bigger country. I'd be curious for like India and China. I don't know what their internet looks like. If culturally, if they run into similar problems like this, or if they have other issues that are popping up. But I think that I think that the issue is that people are selecting for groups and then they expect this big ideological congruency amongst people that are nowhere near each other, right? Like if you might live in Los Angeles, California, and you might get upset because somebody in Arkansas doesn't agree with you on gay rights. And traditionally, that just would have never happened because these people aren't talking to each other. If you live in LA, you're not talking to, I don't even know what a single city in Arkansas. What's the capital of Arkansas? It's not Arkansas City, is it? Arkansas capital. Oh, Little Rock. Okay. People in Little Rock aren't usually writing letters or telegrams to people in San Francisco or LA, right? So you wouldn't expect that level of congruency. But now you do because of the internet. I think the internet is just fucking up a lot of shit. And in the US especially, because it's such a huge country with so many different people that are all on like the same internet, I think. Yeah. Does that apply to interrelationships though? Do you expect most couple to share strong political value and most persons don't go in couple with people from different... I don't know what the fuck this sentence means. Does that apply to interrelationship, though? Do you expect most couple to share strong political value and most persons don't go in couple with people from different political view? Run that one through the translator like 2 or 3 more times, okay?
That's why he's a human trafficker.
The talking points are funny. I think it's really funny. I think if you're listening to this in video form, I think you should rewind because I think Seb accidentally gave away part of the plot. It's funny because you described that border bill and you said that it allows 5,000 illegal immigrants to come in a day. Minimum? Wrong. That was the maximum cap.
No.
One of the issues that we faced. I did, I did read it. Let me finish. I did read it. You should read it as well. No.
So apparently it's capped at 5,000 with an allotment for 1,400 more, but more or less the same thing. This idea that was the minimum they were trying to let in, though, yeah, fuck the guy that came in here, Charlie, trying to say like, no, he was just, no, bullshit. I'm wrong on the precise number because it was 5,000 plus 1,400, but he thinks that the goal was to have at least minimum 5,000.
Issues that we faced. I did, sir. I did read it. Let me finish. I did read it. You should read it as well. No, I did read it. And it's funny because what you'd said later on was that we were seeing numbers sometimes in excess of 12,000 per day. Mm-hmm. The reason why that bill was so important, one of the things that would have been nice is it would have actually placed a cap on the amount of people that were coming in and claiming asylum. That 5,000 per day would have said that once we hit this cap, we are not processing anybody else. You could have the most legitimate asylum claim in the world, and we would not allow...
Why would there be a minimum anyway, so it doesn't make sense? Well, because in their world, Democrats are intentionally bringing in illegal immigrants to vote for Biden. That's their world. So, of course, it's a minimum because you want to keep bringing in illegals to change the election results. Actually... Oh, they would probably use Texas. I was going to say, what is evidence that illegals Because I was going to say, don't most illegals go to California? Why would we need voting there anyway? California already goes super blue. I'm curious if like the proportion of illegal immigrants to the states that Trump lost, those 7 states he gets super ass mad at, do they have a lot of, I mean, illegals don't vote anyway, but yeah.
You into this country, which was already about to be challenged by a ton of legal people around the United States. And I think the international, there were international bodies as well, because whether or not you can cap.
I think UNHCR and I think UN, the UN in general, capping refugees is a really hairy problem. And I don't even know if that would survive international or domestic legal scrutiny. It's a tough one. We looked this up, but it's hard to.
Asylum seekers is still an internationally debated topic, but that is what that legislation seeks to do. If you feel, again, so passionately about the border, why didn't we pass any bipartisan infrastructure or bipartisan immigration legislation? Why did Trump shut it down?
Because you have to have the other side acting in good faith.
You can say that, but
I did.
You did. If you really truly believe that the other side is at fault, then it seems like you need a candidate besides Trump, because Trump wasn't able to get anything done when he was president. You just said it yourself that Trump had to repurpose DOD funds to do it.
This is a good point, but I shouldn't have gone to this yet. I should have just hammered home one more time. There was legislation on the table. What do you mean by not acting in good faith? No, I can't ask the question, because if I ask that question, he's going to ramble off into some retarded shit. There was legislation on the table. Republicans walked away from it, not Democrats.
If you really truly believe that the other side is at fault, then it seems like you need a candidate besides Trump, because Trump wasn't able to get anything done when he was president. You just said it yourself that Trump had to repurpose DOD funds to do it. Trump had a larger margin in Congress. Trump had all 3 branches.
The answer to this talking point is that illegals are counted in census, which affects electoral college votes. I'm pretty sure when we read an article on that, I think it was +1 to Republicans was the final sweep when you looked at all of the potential illegal census counts. That was my understanding. So I can go and look that up again, but
branches of government and accomplished less than Biden did when it came to legislation, when it came to the border, when it came to infrastructure, when it came to foreign policy, when it came to almost every single aspect of running this country. And Trump was the one that came in saying, I'm the business guy. I can bring people together. I can get these things done because I know how to get people to work together. And all I hear from people once Trump left office was, well, the deep state got me, and it was the other guys, and I couldn't do anything, and I had to take money from the DOD to do it, and I couldn't figure anything out, and blah, blah, blah. And now that he's out of office, supposedly running for America, despite the fact that what he's really running for is so that he can pardon himself from his crimes and be immune from hopefully state charges. What he's really running for, is to save himself. And that's why he didn't care about the border. That's why he tries to continue the border problems. He wasn't able to fix it when he was in office because he's more concerned with his reputation than actually bringing people together to get anything done. I don't understand how, even if you believe everything that you've said, that asylum seeking is an issue, that illegal immigration is an issue,
why don't Democrats put out a bill with only immigration on it, so if it got rejected, then your point would stand that Republicans don't want it? That's what they did. What are you talking about? The bipartisan immigration bill was on its own. I think initially it was going to be wrapped up with other stuff, but it came on its own, and it failed on its own. It got shut down because Trump wanted to keep the issue open. No? Puggy Gap said no. Actually, no, hold on. I'm sorry. I know that I'm correct. I know that I'm correct. Even if I'm wrong, I'm right. Because if the bill was presented in conjunction with other things, which is, by the way, it's already funding that already got passed. Even if it was in conjunction with other things, it wasn't shut down because it was in conjunction with other things. It was shut down because Donald Trump said, don't vote for immigration. So even if I'm wrong, I'm right. McConnell and Lankford and these other Republicans aren't out here saying like, oh yeah, well, we had to shut it down. And Ted Cruz, they weren't saying we've got to shut it down because it's tied to other legislation. They shut it down because Trump told them to. We already watched the videos of them saying that. So this is an irrelevant talking point.
Even if you believe everything that you've said, that asylum seeking is an issue, that illegal immigration is an issue, even if you believe that these are issues that are brought by Democrats intentionally and they're destroying the country, which are all ridiculous claims, Donald Trump is not the guy to fix them because he already proved that he couldn't do it once.
All right, so we can go back and forth saying...
You watched the video of Ted Cruz saying that? You're lying? Wait, hold on, what? Ted Cruz came out and he basically said, I think... So they rejected the bill before they saw it. And then I think he said, well, now that we've seen the bill, we know we don't want it because of blah, 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 blah. But I don't think he blames Ukraine or anything here at all. But we can listen if you think I'm lying. I'm pretty sure we already watched this.
We have some good news. The good news is this bill is dead. Now, my views on this bill have not been ambiguous. At the last press conference we had here, I described it as, quote, a steaming pile of crap. Some people afterwards criticized that characterization. Can't imagine why. And they said, well, you haven't read the text, so how can you say that? And you're right. All I knew was what had been described.
You're right. I did say it was a steaming pile of crap before I'd read any of it. True. Okay. But, you know, my constituents are retarded. They're Republicans, so they don't care. But that's okay. And I can even admit to it on stage, and they don't care. But okay.
And they said, well, you haven't read the text, So how can you say that? You're right. All I knew was what had been described by the bill sponsors. Well, now we've seen the text, and it turned out my assessment was far too kind. This bill is a terrible bill. I'm going to break it down on two metrics. Number one, policy, and number two, politics. On policy, why is this bill a terrible bill? Because it does not solve the problem. We have the worst rate of illegal immigration in our nation's history. People are dying. Children are being brutalized. Women are being sexually assaulted. Over 100,000 people died of overdoses last year. This bill doesn't fix it. Understand, this border crisis is deliberate. Joe Biden caused it. He caused it by his own unilateral decisions. 3 decisions caused this crisis, all made the first week of his presidency. He inherited the lowest rate of illegal immigration in 45 years, and his first week as president, he halted construction on the border.
Under COVID. Nice, good one. I like the whole we can't blame Trump for COVID, but we're sure as fuck going to give him credit for what happened under COVID when it's good for him. That's always funny.
Inherited the lowest rate of illegal immigration in 45 years, and his first week as president, he halted construction on the border wall. He reinstated the disastrous policy of catch and release, and he pulled out of the unbelievably successful Remain in Mexico agreement. That caused this explosion. It also means Joe Biden could solve it.
None of this has anything to do with the bill, by the way.
Tomorrow. How would he solve it tomorrow? By reversing those 3 decisions, and you would get, once again, a secure border. Joe Biden doesn't want to secure the border. Kamala Harris doesn't want to secure the border. Chuck Schumer doesn't want to secure the border. And this bill was designed not to secure the border. Instead, this bill codified Joe Biden's open borders. This bill codified catch and release. Catch and release is contrary to law. But if we'd have passed this bill...
That's contrary to what law? What?
Catch and release would be right there in the U.S. Code. This bill normalized 5,000 illegal immigrants a day. 5,000 illegal immigrants a day works out to roughly 1.8 million a
This is the 5,000 a day talking point. Normalizes it instead of caps it.
year. We've seen 9.6 million illegal immigrants under Joe Biden. Apparently, the Republican position was going to be, we don't like your 9.6, but we're okay with 2/3 of that illegal immigration. That was ridiculous. This bill gave work permits to illegal immigrants. This bill gave government-funded lawyers to illegal immigrants. You know, one of the provisions that I personally find most noxious. This bill goes directly after the state of Texas. And it says all litigation about immigration, you can't sue in Texas anymore. You got to come to Washington, D.C., to one of the most liberal courts in the country. Texas, sorry, we're throwing you out of court in Texas. You got to come to D.C. As I observed on X last night, one sane Republican would side with Joe Biden over the state of Texas in this battle to secure the border. That's what this bill did. So as a policy matter, it was terrible policy. And as a matter of politics, it was even dumber. It was obvious from day one this bill would never pass into law. Speaker of the House said it was dead on arrival. House leadership all said it had 0 chance of passage. So if it wasn't going to pass into law, if you knew that, and we did know that, what was the purpose of it? The entire purpose of this bill is to give political camouflage for Democrats running in November. The objective of this bill was, number one, to do nothing, so to do 0 to secure the border, but to let every Democrat running for office say, gosh, I wanted to secure the border. But those mean Republicans wouldn't let us. This is all about talking points to deceive the voters. We're already seeing Democrat candidates across the country repeating that I was ready to secure the border, but the Republicans didn't. It's an utter lie. Remember again, Joe Biden can secure the border any day he wants. He doesn't want to. And by the way, we could have passed legislation that every one of us would have supported. H.R. 2 that passed the House of Representatives. I've introduced H.R. 2 in the Senate. Chuck Schumer wants a bill that I'll vote for Ukraine aid on it. Give me Ukraine aid and H.R. 2 and I'll vote for that. Because that actually would secure the border. And what did Chuck Schumer say at the outset? Nope. H.R. 2 is off the table. Why? Because the Democrats do not want to secure the border.
The H.R. 2 bill was unhinged. But that was also way more extreme than anything Republicans even suggested in the past.
They want this invasion, and the Americans who are dying as a result.
Destiny took the bait from the Dems. Embarrassing. What bait do you think I've taken? Hello, lawful. Quick, say something before I permaban you. What bait have I taken? Please tell me. Please educate us. But anyway, there you go. The primary rejection of this bill was not because it was tied to Ukraine or Israeli aid or whatever. That's not true.
And forth saying, I read this, I read that. Look it up for yourselves. Everybody can do that, okay? I just want it to be common sense. Does anybody with a straight face...
Wait, do I have that as part of my debate pervertry? Anytime somebody says common sense? Well, I need like a... What would we call that? Anytime you appeal to common sense, you're almost always like on some retarded shit. Is there a good name for that? Retard's gambit. Common sense ain't so common. The forehead fallacy. Tragedy of the commons sense. Okay, sure. Yes, it's common sense to say Biden doesn't want to secure the border when he says surge the border and stops border wall construction, you clown. Yeah, that never happened. We've looked at these quotes before. Like, yeah, you guys are fucking retarded. I'm sorry, but that's okay. It's okay. I love you all.
have the capacity to say, yeah, the Democrats are strong on the border and immigration, and Trump isn't. I mean, it beggars belief. It's risible. It's risible.
That's one of the weaker points.
Does he not respond to a single thing I say? Was that really it? Just emotional appeals? Do I point this out? Are we drawing on the tablet? I'm erasing.
They're destroying the country, which are all ridiculous claims. Donald Trump is not the guy to fix them because he already proved that he couldn't do it once.
All right, so we can go back and forth saying, I read this, I read that. Look it up for yourselves. Everybody can do that, okay? I just want it to be common sense. Does anybody with a straight face have the capacity to say, yeah, the Democrats are strong on the border and immigration, and Trump isn't? I mean, it beggars belief. It's risible. It's risible.
That's one of the weaker points Stephen made, but I think a very strong point that he made right at the end, and the one I'd like to hear you answer is, Donald Trump, you said...
That's an appeal to incredulity. Yeah, no, I know. It's just funny. He never responds to a single fucking thing I say. I feel like I need to... It feels so aggressive when I'm like, you didn't respond to my question. You didn't, I don't know how to, I sound so passive aggressive or aggressive when I say it. I don't know what to, I mean, I sound like a dick, but like, Jesus Christ, bro. PhD in political science? I guess it's Hungary, so maybe the schools aren't real there? That's me, I'm sorry. I don't know, like...
Say, didn't build the wall because there was a lack of support from the other side. They were not acting in good faith. Okay, well, you think there's going to be more good faith after he gets elected, let's say, in 2024?
Right. I'm not sure it's the good faith that's the problem. He seems to paint President Trump.
No, you said this earlier.
No, but let me just unpack it in terms of...
That's not what I asked. Is better than you didn't answer my question. Yeah, but again, there's an issue that I have to keep in mind, which is I can't... Here's the conundrum that I'm caught in, okay? I've learned this from debating. Here's the conundrum that I'm caught in. Oh, the appeal to mods might be the solution. If I say, hey, you said that 1 + 1 = 3... Or no, it would be, I would go, I've looked at the math, I've gone to school, and I'm certain that 1 + 1 = 2. And then the other person says, well, sir, 1 + 1 is 3, and here are 15 different things that I'm going to be talking about and ramble, and I might not have any justification for it, but there was a little boy that came out holding a sign saying 1 + 1 = 3, and Donald Trump looked at that little boy, and everybody cried and clapped. Now, at this point, when it's my turn to go, I can't say, you didn't answer my question. 1 + 1 doesn't equal 3. Where's your proof for that? Because if I say that, well, 1 + 1 doesn't equal 3. You didn't answer my question. Oh, well, actually, 1 + 1 is 3 because of, and then here's another story that makes you feel sympathetic towards my side, and blah, 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 blah. And it's like, okay, well, fuck me. I can't, the problem in these debates is I can't ask a question like that to narrow the answer because the person always uses it as a jumping pad to just ramble about some more retarded shit. So I can't ask questions. I can't do that. It's just an opportunity to ramble. Yeah. Any question is an opportunity to ramble. Just state that he didn't answer the question and keep moving. Yeah, maybe I just have to remember to keep restating it. Yeah. Fuck. I need to write these down and keep these in mind for every. I had this under. Oh, I didn't make a debate strategy thing. Maybe debate pervert. I don't know. Yeah. I just have to restate it and move on, I guess. Yeah.
What's possible and what isn't.
Why doesn't the moderator say something? Are the mods all just shit heels? Well, I think the moderator is much more friendly towards Gorka's point of view because they all, any self-described centrist, rational, nonpartisan, whatever person all carries like 95% water for Trump. Like happens all. This is why I don't describe myself this way ever.
No, you said this earlier.
No, but let me just unpack it in terms of what's possible and what isn't. I said this when I was in the White House. I said it after I left the White House. Donald Trump won the election despite the GOP, not thanks to the GOP. I mean, this is the oddity. I mean, this is what Americans forget, and I find it funny that I have to, remind.
He won despite the GOP, not thanks to the GOP. This fits into the, this is one of like the hypothetical things that I put up here that, oh, fuck. What is it an example of? It becomes incredibly difficult to break anyone out of a given constellation because there's always some underlying transcendental entity that can explain every single part of why the constellation is true. Even evidence that seems to be in opposition to any particular belief is reinterpreted through the transcendental entity and becomes evidence for that particular belief. So like the deep state is like this transcendental entity that explains every single possible thing. And if Donald Trump wins, it's because he defeated the deep state because of the support from the citizens. It was so good. If he loses, well, it's because the deep state defeated him. No matter what the outcome is, your particular entity is always capable of explaining exactly why it happened. Like no matter what, it makes no predictions, and it explains everything and it never needs to be corrected for, right? Because if a thing doesn't make predictions, you never have to correct for it. Because why would you? It predicts everything, and everything can be retroactively explained and subsumed by whatever your transcendental idea is. Biologist, thanks for the 50 gifted subs.
And Americans who were born here, unlike me, a legal immigrant, that Donald Trump, the American people did something utterly historic in 2016. Because prior to that, every chief executive from George Washington to Obama was from the same class. They were either senators, congressmen, governors, or retired four-star generals. Every single one, from George Washington to Obama. Then
has he responded to a single thing I've said ever? I don't know if there's been a single back and forth here. I feel like I just shut down all of his stupid shit and then he just yappers on some other random shit.
What did the American people do in 2016? They say, we've had it with the swamp, the establishment, the rhinos, the Democrats. They elect a man who's never run for any office, not county dog catcher. A guy who...
Oh, that's actually a really good one. Hold on, I like that one. Restate what the other person said and ask them if that was an answer to your question. I like that one. That's a good one.
Who has no political background, and they say, F you to the establishment, we want him. That's actually historic. Now, that's what the president had to compete with. When we walked into the White House on January 21st, I said this publicly back then, there were less than 20 of us in senior positions like myself who were actually America First and MAGA, right? Because it was an insurgency, it was a political insurgency. The establishment hated President Trump. We had people inside the building who were actively subverting him, even his former chief of staff. That will not happen in a second Trump administration because the president understands what Reagan taught us. Personnel is policy. We can't have, people betraying the will of the American voter inside the wire, inside the building. It's more than just, oh, well, he didn't pass legislation. He actively had people who believe in the footsie under the table with the other side. I'll get my cushy, lobbyist job after I leave Congress. That's changed in the last 8 years. The Republican Party now is MAGA, is America First. There's a few holdouts and rhinos who are leaving like Mitt Romney, but the situation for getting even more stuff fixed is much brighter than it was when we walked in 2016.
Stephen, anything you want to say?
Populism usually takes a pretty predictable route where people are frustrated with a set of circumstances, which, to be fair, there's a lot of things to be frustrated about. And what you do is you turn to a strong man who promises to deliver you from all of your evils, to deliver you from the pain and the suffering of whatever around you, because he's the one source of truth, the one source of goodness, the one guy that can get the job done. That's what Donald Trump sold himself as when he came into office. And like every populist, he came in, he overpromised, and he underdelivered. Trump failed on every single conceivable metric when it came to being a president, besides, and I will admit, he is very funny. He's very funny, he's got good stage presence, and he can work a crowd. That's why the
economy was pretty good during his period until COVID hit.
The economy was good, but I mean, like, you can Google markets, you can look at indicators, like everything had been hitting all-time highs since 2013 under Obama, right? Ever since the economy crashed after 2007 and started to recover, that same recovery happened under Trump. And it was happening with pretty low interest rates, and it was just a carry on from Obama's administration. People will say, well, the economy was really good under Trump. What did Trump even do? He did a bunch of tax cuts and that's it. He didn't really do much else.
Hold on.
And then as a quick thing again, I'm sorry, but my managerial experience in the ordinary world, outside of the,
I'm sure there are other economic indicators we could look at. I'm most familiar with markets, but like Republicans will look at this. Republicans will look at let's see. Obama comes in here like 2007, 2008. Republicans will look at this and we'll see. Okay. This is something, we don't know what's happening. I'm not sure what's happening. Where markets are increasing. Oh, back to all-time highs around 2012, 2013. Okay, markets, we don't know what's happening. Who knows? We don't know what's... Oh, now they're increasing because of Trump. Oh my God, it's because of Donald Trump. Oh my God, it's because of Donald Trump. And I don't know why they were increasing here. The markets were always increasing. Okay. Oh my God, it's Donald Trump. Like, no, what? What legislation? What did he even do? What did he even do to cause the markets to increase? Like, what are we talking about?
Sorry, but my managerial experience in the ordinary world, outside of the, I guess the YouTube world I live in now, is limited. But I was a supervisor in a restaurant if I was given a shift and all my tables were dirty and my manager comes in and she sees my restaurant, it's my ass. I'm in trouble. I can't say, like, well, these employees were working against me and these guys didn't show up and these guys didn't call in. She said, okay, well, you're getting paid the big bucks. It's your responsibility. You're the leader there, right? When Trump was coming into office, because I am an ardent capitalist, the only redeeming quality I saw was, well, okay, he is a business guy. So at the very least, maybe he's got some comprehension in terms of how to get people who with different opinions to actually work together. And he is the most divisive leader in like all of U.S. history.
All the stock market tells us is how well mega corporations are doing. Thank you, Francisco 100. I appreciate that you're 18 years old and that's your opinion on the economy. But when you get a little bit older and you start having things called 401ks or IRAs, you're going to be pretty invested in the stock market too, my friend. But don't worry, you'll get there. As soon as you have a real job that isn't just... I was going to sound like real. You'll get there, buddy.
Or at least in recent U.S. history, the idea that, even his former chief of staff was against him, like that's a point in favor of Trump. These are your people. You're nominated. How is it that every person that's worked with him, how is it that his former attorney generals, his chiefs of staff, his personal friends, his personal lawyers, when you have this many people around you that are saying to the rest of the world, don't trust this guy. This guy is no good. I don't work with him anymore. I don't trust this guy anymore. Like, at what point do you look at him and you're like, okay, well, maybe it's not actually the deep state, every single institution, all of the media, all of the world, all of academia.
Would you then attribute everything happening currently to the prior administration? No, you attribute, you give you give props when people do things, not when things are happening under a person. So I'll give Biden props for the major legislation that he's passed. That's what I'll give him props for. Donald Trump didn't really do much for the economy. We had tax cuts. That was it. The economy continued to grow. They didn't do anything to the economy, to be fair. But that's it. What do you want me to say? You have to look to see what people do. Okay? If I go stand outside of my balcony at 5 a.m. and then come back in at 10 a.m., I don't get to take credit for the sun rising. Okay? What?
And all of the politicians against him, maybe he's just kind of like a bad person who's not very good at getting his job done.
This is, it's like you live in an alternate universe. I know you're on YouTube and that those are your qualifications.
We're all on YouTube, Seb.
No, I'm not. No, I'm not. I've been banned.
He had to restate that twice. I'm not. I was banned. Okay.
And I've been banned on YouTube, right? So, I take that as a mark of honor. I'm on Rumble. So this idea that he failed at everything. Yeah, that's a great description of Joe Biden, from mortgage rates to inflation to the price of energy to surrendering in Kabul to the invasion of Ukraine to October the 7th. Yeah, massive successes in the last 3.5 years. Let's talk about my bailiwick. Let's talk about national security.
There's just... Damn, I don't think I even realized how egregious this was at the time. He just doesn't respond to a single fucking thing I say ever. Good moderation here, okay.
Had been told by our predecessor, Obama, that ISIS, quote, is a threat we just have to get to learn to live with.
How old are you? Why are we talking about ISIS in 2020, in current year? What the fuck?
Can't be solved, we're just going to live with it. When we came into the White House, President Trump got the lawyers out of the way.
Destiny manager comparison makes no sense. Managers have greater control over employees. What are you talking about? No, a manager's not supposed to be controlling employees at all. The manager controls the supervisor. It's the supervisors that control the employees.
And unleashed JSOC and Delta Force. Within 5 months, the caliphate of ISIS was gone, kaput. China, we initiated a trade war with China. We facilitated the rise of NATO to such an extent that under President Trump's presidency, defense spending shot up by $400 billion inside NATO. The guy who was going to destroy it actually saved it. Then we look at, the Middle East, 5 peace accords in less than 4 years. These are meant to be failures for us. Let's look at the international environment. Under Obama, Ukraine, Crimea, taken. Under Biden, again, a second invasion, hundreds of thousands of Ukrainians and Russians dead. The largest loss of Jewish life since the Holocaust in Israel, and then the absolute surrender and betrayal of the Afghan people in a withdrawal that made Saigon look like a small incident. These are supposed to be the successes. And as to this, he's the most divisive.
Do you think he talks like this on purpose? Yes, it's bullshit, but British people are parasites, and they understand that in the American mind, having a certain cadence brainwashes us, okay? It's unacceptable, and it needs to be called out more. I don't think that British people really talk like this to themselves. When they go back home, no shot. Oi, matey! I don't think this is real. No shot do they talk like this in their households. They know they're fucking with us, okay? They're plugging into our brain stems with a brainwashing technique.
Supposed to be the successes. And as to this, oh, he's the most divisive. It's so peculiar, but I find it incapable, I find it impossible to remember my former boss giving speeches in front of iconic locales such as Independence Hall in Philadelphia, bathed in red fascistic light, with Marine...
Bro, this one speech that Biden gave, and the picture that came from it, lives in Republicans' heads so rent-free. Like, there was never been a image. Where is this Biden speech red background? This is like the mind-breaking close-up.
And the ideas they embody, equality and democracy.
Was it like a red, white, and blue? Like, the camera was too zoomed on this. It would just fucked him so hard. And I mean, it didn't even really fuck him. There is no like good faith engagement here. But this brain broke people. No, it's not even brain breaking. I'm sorry, no, because they're not even engaging with the good faith. Anybody that seriously tells you that like Biden's speech here, they'll point to this one thing where he tries to be careful. Like, oh, just the MAGA Republicans, not all Republicans. Where they try to make Biden sound like some weird fascistic leader and say that he was more divisive because of this one speech. Is so cringe. I think there was a blue on the side here. I don't know if it was supposed to be red, white, or blue, what, but oh my God. Republican getting super ass mad over Dark Brandon memes now is so funny. Do they actually? I haven't seen that. You wildly discount the impact of regulatory agencies and regulations on economic growth / optimism. Under Dems, agencies run wild. This is just true. Oh, well, I was going to argue against that and ask you for like specific examples or something, but you said this is just true. So, I guess. Good job.
Bathed in red fascistic light, with Marines flanking him, labeling half of America extremists and fascists, and preaching to us about white supremacy in his State of the Union address. That really brings us together. This is the man who told us, Biden said on his inauguration, I'm going to bring you together by calling half the nation white supremacists. When the real racist problem in America are the Democrats on the campuses saying death to America from the river to the sea if you're Jewish. That's the left today. Radicals who hate America. I go back to my original point. And then this strange idea of populism, using this label as a smear, some kind of pejorative. I don't know. I remember the good old days where if you had the popular support of the people, that was a good thing.
He looks so bored here. Was it because he's just meme buzzwords one after? Yeah, because this is all just like rhetorical maneuvering. We're not like actually having an interesting debate or conversation. Just like, okay, well, what dumb talking point is he going to say? And I got to figure out how do I counter this stupid talking about. We're not like actually in the world of fact or reason. We're in the world of like job auditions, I guess, where he's auditioning for a future job in the Trump White House, and I'm auditioning for VP next year. Okay, get Kamala Harris out of here. Biden, pick me.
I don't like the elites. They stink. They're corrupt. But a guy comes along who has popular support. No, the elites will decide. Just like Sam Harris destroyed himself on your podcast when he said, I don't care if Hunter Biden had dead children in his basement. The plot against Donald Trump and the election in 2020 was, quote, justified. That's the left. That's the other side. Those are the divisive people.
I want to talk about a couple of things you raised there, which is foreign policy, geopolitics, etc., and also what's happening on college campuses, Stephen, as well. I would like you, before I go back to Stephen, to address you the one point that he made, which I think is worth exploring, which is we say this guy knows how to get things done.
Oh, cool. You're actually going to try to, after that whole yap ramble, you're going to bring him back to the actual point I made? Nice. Okay.
And you say you had all these people in the White House and elsewhere who were working against him. What about what Stephen said, which is he just seems like an asshole that annoys everyone and people can't work with him?
Huh.
Well, look, I've said it many times before. It is absolutely remarkable what he achieved in really not 4 years, 2 years.
What did he do?
Despite the people who are subverting him because they represent the elite class.
What do you mean? What were those achievements again? Just
the strongest economy we've ever had, lowest unemployment.
No, like things he's done, not things that happened.
What do you mean? What's the difference?
What? It's like the short circuit of like the most basic question in the world. Wait, what do you mean? What did he do? What are you talking about?
The elite class.
What were those achievements again? Just...
The strongest economy we've ever had, lowest unemployment.
No, like things he's done, not things that happened.
What do you mean? What's the difference?
So, like, if I stand outside and a tree grows, I wouldn't say that I grew the tree.
Oh yeah, you said he did nothing in regards to the economy.
Like, what
I'll give you the example. You said he did nothing with those. Not his responsibility. When we came into the White House, the president had a modest goal. He said, "I've had it with the growth of the state." And
then we get these appeal. I think I have a counter to this. These are so boring. What are you writing during these debates? I'm just taking notes on what the person is saying, and then I'm so that I know what I want to respond to. Because when they say a bunch of things, I want to respond to everything that's being said instead of just yapping on random stories like these people do.
On the average American, 60% of businesses are small businesses in America. I want to get the monkey off the back of the guy who has the family company. So what did he do? He said, I'm not going to sign any executive orders as president unless for every one I sign, 2 are rescinded. I want to have a redress of the balance, the abuse of executive power. We said, okay, sir, by not the end of the first year, by the 10th month of the first year, that figure wasn't 2 to 1.
You should draw your opponent as a soy jack and hold it up to the camera. True, actually. That would be an instant fucking win. Domination. Excuse me, have you considered that you have been drawn as a soy jack?
The figure was 22 to 1. We had rescinded 22 executive orders for every new one the president signed. That's how you unleash the economy. And that's exactly what happened. When you allow federal government lands to be used for energy exploration.
Did I catch this? What does an executive order even have to do with the economy? An executive order? Like which ones? I hope I ask them. I should push harder. I do. I should, right? I must.
When you say, yes, XL Keystone Pipeline, when you block Russia's Nord Stream, that's when you unleash the American people. And that's on President Trump.
Let's just finish this point.
I really let him get away with that?
The fact.
Or did they edit this here? I don't remember. I'm not accusing them of editing it. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. Because he didn't really answer my question at all. What executive orders? Like, there are EOs that have nothing to do with the economy.
That Donald Trump is not able to lead the country well because he's not able to bring enough people with him to buy into his vision, and instead you had constant turmoil internally.
A moderator move you didn't point out was when Gorka appealed to common sense, and the moderator flat out said, yeah, that point from Stephen was pretty bad. Well, I didn't even remember him saying that, maybe. I just assume at every point in these debates, the moderator is always against me. It's just, yeah. It'd be nice to be in a debate where the moderators were a little bit more fair, or like would fact check the other side, but we're used to it at this point.
And it's not just rhinos who were leaving, it was people like Steve Bannon.
No, he didn't leave. He was fired by the chief of staff, who was an actual seditionist, right? John Kelly fired him. Steve didn't want to go.
So why didn't Donald Trump overrule him and say, this is my guy?
Because he trusted Kelly. This is a 4-star general, right? This is a guy who was in the Marine Corps. Sadly, he didn't know. He didn't have buddies in the swamp. But now, after the last 7 years, let me assure you, because this is my number one concern, and I've discussed it with the president, he knows who to trust, and he knows who not to trust. Therefore, he will achieve even more, God willing.
Wow, Lonerbox, thanks for hosting me. That white on white is pretty easy to read. You know what? Fuck, I should use this in the future. This would have been such a good talking point here. You're telling me that Donald Trump was a first-term lame duck president? Like, he couldn't do anything at all in his first term because he didn't know how to be president. So now I need to look for a second. Like, what a bizarro fucking statement to make.
Yeah. If we re-elect him in November.
All right, Stephen, go for it. We'll do a few.
You're baiting me in 2. 1, emissions regulations have increased on combustion engines in 27. 2, the point that they are impractical. 2, Lena Khan with the FTC is suing any corp that wants to merge many others. Hold on. Do you think that these massive corporate mergers, do you think they're good for the U.S. economy? I think generally blocking these is probably a better idea. I don't think emissions regulations are significantly impacting the U.S. economy anyway, especially when we're carried so heavily by our tech and services. I don't think that's true, but I could be wrong. If you have an article or something you want to link.
Minutes with you, and then I want to move on to geopolitics. What's
I can
happening on
incorporate that
campuses.
even. The idea that Trump, a billionaire real estate developer from New York, didn't have friends in the swamp, which is very funny to me.
In the political
wasn't
swamp.
This guy? Wasn't he literally in pictures at Hillary and Bill Clinton's wedding? I mean, like the idea that
you're living in
the
Manhattan.
idea that
that doesn't
idea
mean
that,
you're running a political campaign.
No, but you have the
He's a
connections.
realtor.
Yeah,
he's a
billionaire realtor
who has never run anything in government. How would you know who the good bureaucrat is and the crappy?
No connections to anything, by the way. No connections, no friendly people in government, by the way. Like, oh, he's just a New Yorker. Of course, he's just going to be in pictures with, Bill and Hillary. Like,
one like Fauci. How would you know that? You're building real estate.
since you have a cellular iPad, have you considered fact-checking egregious claims live yourself, like a graph of unemployment? I think people get too triggered by that for whatever reason, because people don't care about being right or wrong. They just care about how it looks. So I think it just looks bad. People get super ass mad when you're like Googling things during a debate. So I think I just have to know it. Yeah.
Who has never run anything in government. How would you know who the good bureaucrat is and the crappy one like Fauci? How would you know that? You're building real estate.
Because real estate...
Do you know a lot? You're in media. Do you know how to create a cable TV show?
I know a decent about
no, do you know
I know a decent bit about
right
real estate. And I know that real estate is one of the most tax-advantaged things. I know that real estate has some of the highest integrations with city council planners, with policies.
Who the Secretary of Defense should be?
It's absurd. If he doesn't have any of these ideas, then you're making a very strong argument for career politicians. This is why people that tend to do politics stay in politics, is because they're actually able to know these things. They understand these things. They have these relations.
We need more of them, Stephen.
Well, considering that Trump, again, failed in every conceivable metric, and you weren't able to give me like any strong things that he actually succeeded in.
Hold on.
You said that he rescinded...
thank God I do bring this up. Okay, it does come back. Okay, thank you. Because it is stupid. Yeah.
Able to give me like any strong things that he actually succeeded in.
Hold on.
You said that he rescinded executive orders. Like that is a measurable increase. Give me something like the CHIPS Act. Give me
something
something
that matters, though. I mean, for the people who want to reduce the size of government, that would be
it's
a
lip service thing. I would encourage everybody that hears. There's two lines that people. There's one really common line that politicians always say. It's
Dialogist, thanks for giving 20 subs.
Politispeak, which is funny that Trump utilized it, but it's this, I'm going to go line by line through the budget. I'm going to go line by line and I'm going to get rid of all wasteful spending. First of all, this is just fiscal stuff, okay? This impacts your budget, which, by the way, Trump ran record deficits when he was in office, so budgetarily he still failed, but this doesn't improve your economy or unleash your economy. It's not like we were rescinding...
This is actually kind of half true. Government spending actually can increase your economy, but Republicans would always go the other way. Technically, government spending on goods and services does increase your GDP. But he's talking about cutting the size of government, so it technically cuts against him. But I don't think he knows anything about finance or economics to even begin to have that argument. But
significant executive orders that was destroying our ability to actually succeed. If anything, I would say that the most successful businesses that we had growing in the United States were our tech companies.
Gavin Newsom, in a debate with Sean Hannity, repeatedly told the audience exactly what to Google when he knew Hannity was wrong. This is helpful for when there's no fact-checking such lies like oil production. Yeah, but do you really think like conservatives are fact-checking what Gorka says here? I don't know if that's true or not.
Unleash your economy. It's not like we were rescinding significant executive orders that was destroying our ability to actually succeed. If anything, I would say that the most successful businesses that we had growing in the United
States.
Government
spending doesn't increase GDP. I thought government spending is taken into account with GDP. If the government buys something, if it spends money on something, I thought that is. Wait, is that not true? GDP, if government spends on thing, does it increase GDP? Government purchases are expenditures on goods and services by federal, state, and local governments. The combined total of the spending, excluding transfer payments and interest on the debt, is a key factor in determining the nation's GDP. Yes, it is. Okay.
Were our tech companies that Republicans are constantly trying to undermine and destroy by getting rid of Section 230, which would make it so you could sue Twitter when somebody posts something on Twitter that I don't like. So no, the idea that Trump was unleashing the economy by rescinding some irrelevant executive orders that...
You have private spending that gets crowded out. It's not necessarily positive. You're dead wrong. What do you mean? What private spending is getting cut out when the government is buying missiles from Raytheon? Are there a bunch of private bidders for that? No. The government can invest and buy unique things that other private companies or other private individuals wouldn't necessarily be spending money on. Just because the government's spending money doesn't mean you're destroying other people spending money on shit. Stop.
So no, the idea that Trump was unleashing our ability to actually succeed. If anything, I would say that the most successful businesses that we had growing in the United States were our tech companies that Republicans are constantly trying to undermine and destroy by getting rid of Section 230, which would make it so you could sue Twitter when somebody posts something on Twitter that I don't like. So no, the idea that Trump was unleashing the economy by rescinding some irrelevant executive orders that had no impact on the economy anyway, and the fact that he was still running these
Yes, because you have taxes that would have otherwise been spent. Why are you assuming all of that money would have been spent? if it weren't taxed. I don't think there's a guarantee for that. And I don't believe that buying or investing in companies, I don't believe that's counted for in GDP. Is it? There are other things you can do with money that wouldn't count like towards GDP, that if you tax it doesn't necessarily mean that it would have gone towards a GDP thing anyway. I don't believe. I don't remember if investments in I don't remember if investing in stocks counts for GDP or not. Okay.
Something on Twitter I don't like. So no, the idea that Trump was unleashing the...
Fuck, I paused it so many times. PJ Forehead, thank you for the 20 gifted subs. Hold on, I'm sorry, let me go back. I'm not pausing anymore.
Your economy or unleash your economy. It's not like we were rescinding significant executive orders that was destroying our ability to actually succeed. If anything, I would say that the most successful businesses that we had growing in the United States were our tech companies that Republicans are constantly trying to undermine and destroy by getting rid of Section 230, which would make it so you could sue Twitter when somebody posts something on Twitter that I don't like. So no, the idea that Trump was unleashing the economy by rescinding some irrelevant executive orders that had no impact on the economy anyway, and the fact that he was still running these record level deficits, even though the economy was exploding all 3 years at least under his presidency, is ridiculous. Oh man.
This is point after point after point. He was doing record deficit spending, which increases the debt, which conservatives don't like. Economy was exploding anyway, and had been since 2013. Really, since the bottom, it came back, even under Obama. And irrelevant executive order rescinding that did nothing anyway. He could counter these if he had any data. So he could bring up, well, here are some executive orders that were really important that he rescinded, or here's a really important reason why he had to deficit. I don't even know how he could counter those two, but...
If we want to go foreign policy, Jesus, almost every single decision that Trump made under foreign policy was either a form of kicking the can down the road, or it just did nothing. We talk about like the historic stuff that happened with the Abraham Accords. I'm sorry, but the Abraham Accords started because Netanyahu was on the verge of annexing the West Bank, and the Gulf states were like, this is probably not a good idea, and a lot of people are going to be mad. And then Kushner hopped in, and there were official conversations that were essentially facilitated, and then eventually you start getting these bilateral treaties that are signed between Israel and other countries. But these bilateral treaties did something very important that's happened with other treaties with Israel, and that is that they undermined the Palestinians. They didn't include them in any of the conversations. So when you look at what happened on October 7th, and then you look at Biden, you go, man, this must be Biden's fault. It's like, okay, well, didn't we just have a historic round of talks with countries in the Middle East? How is it that the Palestinians were excluded yet again from these talks, you know? And the idea that Trump was some strong partner in the Middle East when in 2019, Iran literally was shooting drones and missiles over into Saudi Arabian refineries, and the United States stood by and did nothing. Or the idea that we're going to stand here and we're going to say, oh my God, in Afghanistan, we pulled out and we abandoned our people. One, that timetable was sent by Donald Trump. He had a round of talks called the Doha talks that happened with the Taliban, and the Afghanistan government was completely excluded from those talks. When Biden came into office, we'd already been drawn down to historically low numbers in Afghanistan. We had almost no military presence left over there. When Biden came into office, basically the only thing left to do was to follow through on Trump's timetable, which was to pull us out of Afghanistan.
But hold on a second.
Yeah.
Just on that particular thing, didn't you just say that if you're managing a restaurant and your boss comes in and sees a messy table, that's on you? And yet in this situation, you're saying it's Donald Trump's fault, even though it's Joe Biden that did it.
Nice.
Nice. Oh my God, I can't believe he said that. I'm so glad I think of a good analogy to counter this immediately. I can't believe he... Oh my, nice. 69, nice.
Situation, you're saying it's Donald Trump's fault, even though it's Joe Biden that did it.
Nice.
It's not nice, and I'll explain why. If you take over
I'm just trying to be fair.
No, that's fine. It's a good question. It's a good question. If you take over a restaurant and you're the manager of a restaurant, you've bought a business, and somebody comes in and they say, hey, I'm going to sit here with me and 20 friends, okay, because that's what we're going to do. And I go, well, no, that's bullshit. And they go, well, actually, you bought this restaurant and we signed a contract with your last boss that gave us the right to do this for a year. Well, if you buy a business, generally you also inherit, along with the assets and liabilities, prior agreements you've signed as well, or the previous owner did. With the Doha agreements, we were on a timetable to leave. Now, could Biden have increased the troop presence and fought against that withdrawal? He could have, but then at what cost? Remember, it only takes 1 or 2 attacks against U.S. soldiers by the Taliban to have the United States thinking like, well, shoot, do we need to stay there for another 10 or 20 years? I agree that the pullout could have gone better. I think that there were people that should have had the opportunity to leave that country that worked with us, that should have come out, that didn't get that opportunity. But like compare that to say, because remember, this is done under a Trump timetable. What is Trump's excuse for abandoning the Kurds that we fought alongside in Syria to a Turkish onslaught? There was no excuse for that. There was no reason for that. But he did that with I don't even know, because he said, well, I don't want to be in the Middle East anymore. And then he obscured all the information relating to Yemen drone strikes that we were helping Saudi Arabia with, as opposed to Biden, who said we're no longer going to participate in the Saudi-led coalition in Yemen, which was, I think, an improvement. We axed the Iranian nuclear deal, and then we replaced it with nothing. I guess ostensibly that's supposed to keep Iran from pursuing nuclear weapons. We had historic photographs taken with Kim and our leaders for nothing, I guess. I've heard Sebastian claim in the past that they stopped ballistic missile testing. That's not true. That you can literally go on the Wikipedia and read test after the dates. Pence and I believe Tillerson were both complaining about those talks because literally nothing got done in North Korea. Every part of Donald Trump's foreign policy, it was a disaster.
Well, let me give you a narrative that is popular.
Let me give you a narrative, though, because I can't contend with literally a single factual thing you said, okay? Let me go ahead and tell you, though, the stories that people say. Okay.
With people who probably don't agree with you, which is that the main thing about Donald Trump is that people around the world...
Oh, we're going to talk about this like fourth graders. Oh, me. I thought that we were serious political commentators getting paid, huge sums of money to be decently read and research into these topics so that we could have actually informed discussion on them. I didn't know we were going to talk about, well, Trump was a big guy and people were scared of Donald Trump. Big guy. Like, my bad. I didn't know we had to revert to this. My mistake.
The main thing about Donald Trump is that people around the world, and I can tell you this is true, people around the world feared and respected him. They didn't like him necessarily, but they feared and respected him. And the fact that you have Iran-backed people from Gaza committing October 7th, the fact that Putin felt able to invade Ukraine, the fact that China is getting more muscular on Taiwan, this is a sign of the perceived...
Fuck! You know what a good question would be is I should just ask, oh, okay, wait, so you think Trump prevented them from invading Ukraine and Biden didn't? What should Biden have done? Should U.S. troops have been on the ground? Or what are you even implying that should have happened there? Ants have a second stomach to store food to give to their buddies later by throwing up into their mouth. This could be U.S. destiny. Okay.
Weakness of the United States under Joe Biden, and you can take that at whatever level you want, all the way through to sitting down across from Joe Biden and going, this guy can't finish a sentence.
If we want to say that the United...
Why am I even wasting my time reading or talking about anything? By the way, when people are in chat, when people are saying things like, oh, you didn't know anything about the Sebastian Gorka guy or anything, I looked up and I saw that he worked in the Trump White House, and that's why I didn't prepare at all for this, because I already knew that this conversation was going to be a waste of time factually, which it was, because there's like what do I need to research or read more here? Like, I'm ahead of this guy in like every single arena in every sense of the word. This guy's in the White House and apparently didn't learn anything about our domestic or foreign policy under Donald Trump. Like, Jesus Christ.
The United States has a weak foreign disposition right now. I think I would probably agree with that.
Okay.
But I don't think it's because of Biden. I think it's because of how divided we are internally. And I think when you look at a country and you see that they're like fighting with themselves, like okay, well, let's come over here.
I wrote a whole book about that, so I definitely agree with you.
Because like when I look at any of these particular issues, and it's easy to kind of like paint a story if you just like name some things and you don't really dig into them. Like we talk about Iran, right? And we say, well, October 7th, Iran was bold enough to, do foreign proxy training for troops in Hamas. Okay, well, Iran physically, literally attacked Saudi Arabia under Donald Trump, and nothing happened. So why would we imagine that they wouldn't?
I don't know if they ever answer that question. I think that was the first time that ever happened, right? When Iran did the drone and missile attacks into the Saudi Arabian refineries, I think it was 2019. That was pretty historic. I don't think that's ever happened before, and we didn't do fuck all about it. So why would we expect them to do it?
Iran physically, literally attacked Saudi Arabia under Donald Trump, and nothing happened. So why would we imagine that they wouldn't back Hamas as well? It's not like...
I wonder if instead of like doing this fact overwhelming thing, I should just like pick one fact and then just like fight on that. No, because I feel like they gish gallop so much, so I can't. Because if I do just one fact and try to focus on it, they'll just ramble yapper. So I think I have to do this. These are so boring. I think... When I thought about this in the past, where I kind of roughly landed on was that it's probably impossible to make a good debate happen without a moderator that's doing a good job. I don't think that, I don't know if it's possible. You need a moderator to hold people down. Otherwise, you just come off as unhinged, because eventually you'll be fighting the moderator and you'll be fighting the debate opponent, and then you just look crazy.
Trump destroyed...
It's not about imagination. It didn't happen when...
Well, no, that
Donald
attack
Trump
did happen. Iran attacked Saudi Arabia,
Yes,
and Trump didn't
but
have
October 7th.
Would you host illegal immigrants in your house? No. I also wouldn't host citizens in my house unless it's your mom. I'd host your mom, though, even if she was an illegal immigrant, especially if she was an illegal immigrant.
Bolder than
October 7th didn't happen.
Sure, but from an Iranian perspective, that attack was bolder than October 7th.
What about Ukraine, etc.?
Yeah, for Ukraine, Donald Trump didn't, the Crimean Peninsula was inhabited by Russian troops the entire time. Donald Trump didn't do anything to stop that. Donald Trump didn't care about that. It's not like we would pull anything out of there.
Let me just do this bit.
Yeah.
That's a bit different though, Stephen.
Why is he taking over the debate here?
Because in 2014, as Seb said correctly, under Obama, Russia took Ukraine and started a civil war in eastern Ukraine.
Yeah.
Steve wanted us to invade.
To recapture Crimea at that point would have meant literally World War III. So nobody could have retaken Ukraine. It's not like Joe Biden's position when he was elected was, we're going to help Ukraine retake Crimea.
Yeah.
So what I'm putting to you, and I think it's a fair question, isn't it the weakness of the withdrawal from Afghanistan? I think we'd both agree was calamitous. Whoever's fault it was, that's where the debate was. Signaled weakness to other people who wanted to capitalize on that.
What a bizarre statement. Our Afghanistan pullout signaled weakness, and that's why what?
Yes, I agree with you. The internal divisions in America contribute to that. But ultimately, isn't a large part of this the signaling of weakness that invites challenge?
No, because again, I would say, pointing to Ukraine, it's not like Russia stopped their military activity in Ukraine because of Trump being in office. That the invasion just hadn't escalated yet to where they were doing a full-on actual on-the-ground military invasion instead of the more subversive stuff they were doing.
Under Trump, post the 2014 taking of Crimea, and once the Minsk Accords are in place, there was no hot war going on.
I hate that I wasn't it's been a while since I've read on Ukraine, and I hedge so much here, especially because he says these Ukrainians like, fuck, maybe. Bullshit. The Minsk Accords were nowhere near as enforced. I don't even know if Minsk 2 was implemented. And Minsk 1 collapsed almost immediately. I hate that I let him get away with this. Fuck, I hate it. But he said he was Ukrainian, he had family in Ukraine. I was like, okay, fuck it. Maybe I forgot about this thing. Fuck me, dude. Oh, I hate this so much.
King of Crimea, and once the Minsk Accords are in place, there was no hot war going on in Ukraine.
There was still the civil war in the southeast. That war has been raging for like 10 years. The conflict, you think there was a total... Didn't those Minsk agreements last for like months?
Your Destiny, you're too generous. No, the first one I think did, and the second one, I don't even know if it was ever fully implemented.
1 and 2?
No, look, I have a lot of family in Ukraine, so region I understand very well. Post the Minsk Accords, there was no hot war going on.
For how long?
Well, until the invasion, basically.
Oh, that is such an unbelievably incorrect statement. If he has Ukrainian family, he should be ashamed of saying that.
Until the invasion, he was pretty stable. Now, I'm not saying there wasn't the occasional people, but it was broadly, there was a ceasefire in place. People were not killing each other en masse. I can tell you.
I'd have to go and I would look that up.
He's out of his depth.
Out of my depth? Okay.
Out of my depth? This mother who can't answer a single question without sounding like he's reading out of the Berenstein Bears nighttime children's book? What the
Oh, I mean, we can focus on the Middle East more if you want, but I don't think that. I mean, Trump. We talked about NATO. I think that Trump was constantly like NATO skeptic on the international level. I think a lot of people expressed a lot of fear for that.
Well, he wanted other nations within NATO to contribute their fair share.
Yeah, their military percentage of GDP,
which they were not doing, and he was saying we can't continue with NATO if America is the only country that's actually paying its way.
Sure, but the idea that the leader of NATO would be publicly undermining NATO and saying we might have to pull out or stop it, I think there are more diplomatic ways to pursue those conversations.
He never ever once said he was going to pull out forces. You just make stuff up, Stephen. You've got to stop it. Like there was hot fighting in Ukraine.
Focus on the issue. Come on.
No, this is important.
Give us the facts.
Because this is
an area where you can win.
Oh, wow. No. He's like, what? He's like, no. I set this one up for you, okay? And I got Destiny to pull back a little bit on this thing, so I'm teed you up, okay? I just need you to chill and come in here. He's trying so hard to get this Nimrod, okay? We've got him, okay? You got Destiny on the ropes here, okay? I got you, buddy. Tag in, okay?
Focus on the issue. Come on.
No. This is important.
Give us the facts.
Because this is
an area where you can win.
He's literally holding hands.
If you want, so give us the facts.
This is tactics. He just floods the zone with stuff that's false.
Let's address.
Let's talk about it.
We can go claim by claim if you want.
What did I just say that was false? That's what I should have said. I said, what did I just say that was false? What did I just say that was incorrect? Tell me.
Like Seb to do. That's what I'd like to do.
When we were in the White House, and you know this, as opposed to what Obama did. Obama, after the invasion of Crimea, the jewel of Ukraine stolen, what did Obama do? He sent blankets and night vision devices. If you don't believe me, look it up. Blankets and night vision devices. When we came in, I don't understand this. Stephen's positing that we should have invaded.
I've never said that.
Oh, well, there was land in Ukraine that the Russians controlled, and Trump didn't do anything about it. What, you want intervention? I didn't know you were a neocon, Steve.
Well, then what would Trump have done differently? I should have been. I can't believe I didn't hone in on this question. Well, okay, hold on. If the U.S. can't do anything to prevent them from invading, then what would Trump have done differently?
When we got into the White House,
did I say that we should invade anybody?
You said that Trump did nothing about the land taken by Russia.
I said that Russia didn't run away from Crimea. They didn't fear.
And you said they were.
Somebody has. You can find you can go and look up by any metric. What he's saying that until the invasion in 2022, there were no explosions. There were no It's just a fantastic. It's a fantastically stupid claim. But I haven't refreshed on the.
The operations were continuing. Garbage. There were no military operations in Crimea, in Ukraine, or on the border.
Crimea was captured. The whole thing is a military operation.
True. What do you mean there was no military operation? And the war in the southeast raged on the entire time as well. But I gave him the Minsk Accord talking point, which I shouldn't have. I shouldn't have given that. I should have fought.
There were no military. Constant is right.
What was stopping you from catching so much of this in real time? Just politeness? Well, I don't have charts and figures in front of me that I can look up. I think the Minsk Accord thing, this is the only thing that I've backed away from that I shouldn't have. But he said he had family in Ukraine issues. I don't know if this guy's about to start crying if I bring something out. Maybe I misremembered, or maybe I just don't remember the Minsk Accords that well. So I was willing to be chipped away. And he's the moderator too. So it's okay, well, fuck it, maybe. But the fact that the moderator stepped in here to do incorrect facts to try to give Gorka the only possible win, he might be able to scratch out, etch out. Is that the word I'm looking for? Yeah.
There was no hot war. You're just making stuff up. When we came into the White House, we deployed Javelin shoulder-launched anti-tank weapons to Ukraine. So they could defend themselves. And for 4 years, it's interesting, the diminutive KGB colonel did nothing. The idea that, I'm going to kind of explain away what happened in Afghanistan. Let's break Afghanistan down for a second. Yes, there was a timetable for President Trump, but it was conditions-based. If the Taliban hadn't met those conditions, there would have been no withdrawal. I was part of those negotiations. Let me tell you, there would have been no withdrawal without those conditions having been met. Instead, because he wants a photo op for the anniversary of 9/11, what a cynical. Biden wants an 20th anniversary photo op that I won the war in Afghanistan. So 13 of our servicemen are murdered by ISIS at Kabul airport. Thousands of Afghans.
What is stopping you from running away and pivoting like him there would probably look better if it works for him. Because that's not how I want to debate. That's not my audience. That's not how I try to attract. I don't want people following me because I have the right talking points. And I know some people do. You can't help that. But I'd rather, again, I'm trying to stress thought process, epistemic humility, research ability, desire to read, curiosity for information, not being locked in. These are the things that I stress. I don't want to just give talking points to sound good and then get fans that way. It's just not what I'm looking for.
By ISIS at Kabul airport. Thousands of Afghans, also our interpreters, are left. You see a plane take off with hundreds of people hanging on the fuselage. And how do they leave? We're going to get the military out and then we'll somehow get out the civilians. The rank dilettantism for the photo op that you don't even leave from Bagram, which is a military air base you can actually defend. You go to KIA in Kabul, indefensible, and you have a complete circus, well, not a circus, a tragedy of a surrender. And then Putin goes, okay, lads, rev your engines. We're going to invade Ukraine. Then Hamas says, let's kill hundreds of Jews on Israeli soil.
What an unbelievable stretch. Because the U.S. left Afghanistan like this, Hamas is going to do October 7th? Okay.
That's on Biden.
And so let me put an argument.
I'm curious for that. What were the conditions based for that Afghanistan agreement? For the Doha agreement? What are the conditions that you feel like the Taliban... Name
all kinds of. Motherfucker, you said you were in the White House part of these negotiations. What do you mean, bury me? I'm giving you the shovel. I'm standing in a hole that's already 2 feet deep, and I'm begging you to bury me. You said you worked on these.
Well, control of Wardak province had to be stabilized. We had to have Herat have less Iranian influence. I'm not going to go into any more details because they're classified, Stephen.
Okay, what you're saying is just not true.
One of the big reasons
why that pullout was so catastrophic is because the Afghanistan army wasn't. You can read all this. There was a huge report that was done by the United States analyzing the failures for why that fell so fast, and part of it was because the United States had negotiated away some of the land that was previously controlled by the Afghanistan government to the Taliban. And we didn't even tell the Taliban about that. So
we didn't even tell the Afghanistan government about that. Well, I always forget the abbreviation for this. Is it the Inspector General? It's like Sugar or Seeger. What am I thinking of? Special Inspector General for Afghanistan Reconstruction. There was a big report on why shit basically got fucked on this pullout, like so hardcore, and the absolute state of the absolute state of the Afghanistan army the Afghanistan government being completely excluded from these talks was just so unbelievably catastrophic. They had no fucking idea. There were Taliban showing up to towns that had been negotiated away to the Taliban that the Afghanistan government didn't even know about. The Taliban showed oh, this is actually ours now. And they were like, oh, well, fuck that. Which is one of the reasons why the collapse happened. I think the United States knew they were always going to collapse. There's nothing you could do about it. But it was even quicker than they thought because it was just such a clusterfuck on the evacuation.
The land that was previously controlled by the Afghanistan government to the Taliban, we didn't even tell the Taliban about that. So the Taliban would roll into cities and say, by the way, we agreed to this, and the United States said we could have this. And at some point, the Afghanistan army was like, screw this. And they just started to end whole retreat from these areas. So, but
let me put a challenge to you, Seb. You mentioned giving javelins to the Ukrainians, etc. I mean, as you well know, and by the way, it's interesting that even though we're all three from different kind of ways of seeing the world, actually on Ukraine, there's quite a lot of agreement in this room, ironically. But there are a lot of people on your side who have bought this idea that this is Ukraine. The reason the war in Ukraine happened is that Russia was provoked. It was provoked by the expansion of NATO. It was provoked by the giving of weaponry to Ukraine. So what would you say to the people who say, well, yeah, Donald Trump gave stuff to the Ukrainians and that's why Russia invaded?
I don't think we need to go down, a kind of a rabbit hole on this. You know my stance. There's me, Dennis Prager, and Klavan and Mark Levin. That's about the three conservatives who are strong on Ukraine. We reject the Tuckerite isolationism, the neo-Buchananite isolationism. But the whole, you're the expert. You're the guy who translates.
Oh my God, I tried to do a humanity reach out, and it totally bit me in the. It didn't bite me in the ass, but his engagement was so disgusting.
Putin's speeches immediately when they're given. This hoary canard that we encircled Russia, or that U.S. presidents have provoked this great champion of Western, Christendom called Vladimir Putin is asinine. I mean, you know better than anyone. For 22 years since he became premier, Vladimir Putin has been giving speeches on the fact that Ukraine, Poland, the Baltic states are all legitimate and need to be parts of Russia. He's been planning this ever since he, walked into the palace in Moscow.
Can I ask a personal question? I'm curious. Or not personal politics.
Last year, I was introduced to Monetary Metals, a game-changing platform that offers a unique approach to saving and earning income. And I have to say, I've been so impressed that I'm really enjoying using my Monetary Metals account.
If you listen closely to our interview with world-renowned economist Jim Rickards last year, you'll have heard him say this.
Gold will be where countries go, and it should be where investors go, follow the money, as they say. And central banks have been net buyers for the last 13 years. So they're about the best informed players you can imagine. So I'd have some gold.
So we know about the benefits of owning gold. What you may not know is that now there's a way to earn a yield on your gold, paid in more gold.
Why keep saving in fiat currency, which loses value every year due to inflation, when you can save and earn in gold and silver? What's more, imagine not only being able to protect your savings against inflation, but also earning passive income from it. With Monetary Metals, you can do just that.
Imagine if there was a thing you could buy that appreciated your in value, and maybe even a thing that paid you money to have it for a while. If only there were things like that existed, but I guess precious metals must be the only thing, huh?
Right now, you can earn between 2 to 5% annually on gold, paid in gold, when you open an account with them. If you're an accredited investor, you're eligible to earn even higher returns. We're talking about actually earning interest on gold, paid in more gold.
So if you're looking to protect and grow your wealth, look no further.
What's the alternative? Every single investment ever? What do you mean?
Monetary metals. Visit monetary-metals.com/trigonometry or scan the QR code below.
My mom came from Cuba, and my mom and dad were in the Air Force. When I grew up, my parents hated.
I even try to humanize myself. Look, I've got family.
China and Russia, for understandable reasons. My mom flew on the Looking Glass mission, looking for basically nuclear missiles, doomsday, end of the world type stuff. And yeah, the fall of the Soviet Union, the Iron Curtain was a monumentous thing in the world. And it sounds like you have similar feelings about Russia, which I'm happy to hear. Does it bother you, or does it give you pause that so many fans under Donald Trump, that so many of the people that support him seem to be so either skeptical about supporting Ukraine or fallen in support of Russia because they see them as a stronger, better country that champions Christian values better or doesn't submit to the woke mob better, and that maybe it is their right to own Ukraine and the US provoked that?
It bothers me that there are such voices on the putative conservative right. I have come to the conclusion they're not numerous, and they have nothing to do with my former boss. Let me tell you a story about that. We've heard for 7 years still, Hillary was doing it a few days ago, that he loves Putin
and he immediately goes into his talking points. Kill me, bro.
It's so amusing that there are people who are such experts on the Wagner Group now, right after the fake coup. We were experts on the Wagner Group in the Trump administration. We informed President Trump very early on that there are 300 Wagner Group special forces guys running around the Middle East destabilizing the region. We weren't neocons. He's not an interventionist, but he's not an isolationist. He's the perfect balance between the two. And he said, what? Putin's got hundreds of guys running around the Middle East? That's not good. I'm not going to invade the Middle East.
No part about this is true, by the way.
I'm not an interventionist. But he told Secretary Mattis, kill them. Kill them now. 4 hours later, every single member of the Wagner Group's Special Forces deployment was red mist. What did Vladimir Putin do? Nothing. He crapped his pants. He didn't even hold a press conference because he was afraid of what President Trump would do next. That's what President Trump understands is the use of force, not intervention, but when you cross a line, when you destabilize regions that are already destabilized enough. In Syria, when we informed him, this is now declassified, that there was a second chemical weapons attack being prepared by the Assad regime, what did he do? While Xi Jinping was having chocolate cake in Mar-a-Lago, he dropped 52 cruise missiles on that airbase and turned it into a sheet of glass and whispered into Xi's ear, I think you should know what I just did in Syria. That was a message for Xi, for Putin, for Kim in North Korea, for the mullahs in Iran. That's why for 4 years, no new wars. I don't understand why you aren't happy that for 4 years we had no new wars under Trump, and now you think you can blame October the 7th on Donald Trump? You can blame the invasion of Ukraine for a second time under a Democrat president on Donald Trump? It's actually an insult to intellect.
Nice. I tried.
4 years, the world was safe. And now we have a world on fire. But yeah, the guy
How much of this do I hope I correct this entire, every part of this story.
In court today in Manhattan, it's his fault. It's laughable.
Anything you want to say?
Both the situations are just completely and totally misrepresented. The attack on the Syrian airfield, they had advanced warning of that attack. There were no soldiers there. They did chemical weapons. Trump said, we're going to bomb your airport. This is the one we're going to bomb. We'll give you a little bit to get out. And then we bombed it, and that was it. That was like business as usual. The idea...
Were there even any casualties when the U.S. bombed that airport? Was there a single one?
That was some huge, strong show of force is
no
hilarious.
Chemical weapons were used again.
And the Wagner Group, this operates as a paramilitary organization. Of course, Russia is not going to claim direct responsibility, at least prior to the Ukrainian war, for any activities that they do. That's fine, but Russia is not going to claim, Putin's not going to claim personal responsibility over any of their...
300 Russians being killed.
Yes, that's the point of the Wagner Group, you moron. Yes, a paramilitary group that operates independent of actual official Russian command, supposedly, right? That's the whole point. Why would you take direct credit for them? That would be like the U.S. coming out saying 100 of our spies today were captured in Beijing. Like, what? No, you're not going to say that.
Of course he's not, because it's the Wagner Group. That's the whole point. Also, the people that were...
You've always got an excuse? What do you think is the whole fucking point, dog?
people that were
No wars
eliminated,
for 4 years.
the people that were eliminated.
Was that Obama? Did
the
Obama
conditions
fix
for
that?
the wars were being created. But the Wagner group that was,
okay.
the Wagner members that were destroyed in the Middle East.
Why is he allowed to cut me off so much too? These moderators, man, me. I need to... There aren't any left-wing shows that host any debates now, so I can't even... I was going to say that. I need to go on more left-wing debate shows, but they don't because they're fucking pussies. So...
Wasn't Trump saying there's people in the Middle East, let's get them. It was them attacking a U.S. position in Syria and then getting destroyed by U.S. air support.
Yep, that's what happened. Correct.
It's constituted.
Correct. That is right. Notice how he doesn't counter what I'm saying. Why do these guys touch each other so much? There's too much touching here. I'm uncomfortable with this. Even as a bisexual man, the amount of touching that's going on at this side of the table is driving me crazy, and it's making me uncomfortable.
This is exactly what I feel.
I should have wore a gayer shirt for this.
Happen. This is Alice in Wonderland.
Where is that every single response? Every single time this guy opens his mouth to respond to anything, there is no factual analysis. There is no substantive disagreement. It's just narrativizing and storytelling every single time.
Through the looking glass. Donald Trump is not responsible for anything good he did for 4 years, and all the awful things that happened in the last 3.5. Yeah, those are his culpability. It's insanity. It beggars critical thought.
Okay. I think that, like, just real quick, just on one...
And he wouldn't even almost let me respond to that. I had to fight to respond here.
Thing, okay? Because it's frustrating because, like, the analysis is childlike to defend Trump, right? Well, there were no wars, right? Wars don't just come out of nowhere. There's a buildup for how these things happen. So we would talk very specifically just on...
I should have Nebraska Steved here. I don't know how the fuck this guy remains so calm. The analysis was childlike. No, you should have said, you sound like a fucking fourth grader. You sound like you're in fucking kindergarten. You sound like you are fucking retarded. That's what the response should have been.
Wars don't just come out of nowhere. There's a buildup for how these things happen. So we talked very specifically just on one event. Also, keep in mind...
Like, it's no surprise that you say this sounds like Alice in Wonderland. It sounds like your mind lives in child book stories. Like, you have no concept of any actual on-the-ground analysis of anything going on in the world. It's literally just narratives.
Say, like, I don't want to go into the weeds or get into a rabbit hole. It feels like it's because you know you're wrong if you actually get into the details of things. When you look at October 7th, what are things that Donald Trump did to signal how October 7th would have gone? Well, when Iran attacked Saudi Arabia, he did nothing. He showed strong support for Israel by moving the embassy to Jerusalem, and we signed the Abraham Accords, where we mediated them, which were bilateral negotiations between Israel and other Arab countries that didn't involve the Palestinians whatsoever. How do you not look at these three things?
Where is the response to this? Cormantine doesn't care because he has no idea what I'm talking about. Neither of these people at the table have any idea what I'm talking about. So why the are we talking about this? We should just be talking about whether or not we think Donald Trump is a bigger dick than Hunter Biden. That should be the thing. We've seen Hunter Biden's. Why can't we see Trump's? That should be because what the is the point of any of the conversation here? Like, okay, well, if you want to say a thing was caused by a thing, well, then let's look at like 3 strong points pointing to a particular thing occurring, rather than just saying like, well, Donald Trump was a strong man. Yeah, really? This 300-pound whale over here that wears whitey tighties and looks like he's wrestling every single day with type 2 diabetes is the guy who's the strong man that's scaring the world. This guy that's so retarded, our commander-in-chief for the first time in U.S. history, salutes another country's fucking troops. This is the guy that everybody's fucking afraid of. Give me a fucking break here. Holy shit.
These are countries that didn't involve the Palestinians whatsoever. How do you not look at these 3 things and think, like, wow, I wonder if these are creating conditions that are relating to October 7th? Like, these are the types of things that lead to that type of violence.
This is...
Oh, he's about to say, this is incorrect because your analysis here is wrong on all of these points, and I'm going to go point by point and explain why you're incorrect about what you said. That's what he's about to do. I pre-watched this because I was there. He's about to do a really good in-depth. This is the only part of the debate. This is the only part of the debate that we do where he actually seems to have a decent, concrete understanding of the substantive issues at play, and then is capable of finally having a back and forth intellectually about the facts on the ground.
Relating to October 7th, like these are the types of things that lead to that type of violence.
This is actually disgusting.
Oh, never mind. I forgot. He's a retard for the entire conversation. My bad.
This is dishonorable.
It's a lot of adjectives for the facts.
True.
Let's stop it for a moment, okay?
I shouldn't be erasing. I should have looked him in the eyes when I said that. I don't know how to clear the whole page of my notes, so I have to do this stupid eraser bullshit when I'm taking notes on the dumb shit they're saying.
Stop it, because you've just blamed President Trump for October the 7th.
I did not blame Trump for October
stop
the
it.
7th.
I'm going to respond now because this is your debating tactic.
It's not a
you're
tactic.
You're like an ADHD
facts.
version of Ben Shapiro. You throw out stuff out there and then
goodness.
it's all garbage. But beneath it is actual venomous illogic.
Is that what history is? Venomous, illogical?
Will you just shut up for 2 minutes?
So hold on a sec. First of all,
let me respond to him.
You haven't responded to a single point.
Guys, both of you stop right now. First of all, Seb, you got to stop and solve.
We just need to take a, because I feel like at this point in the debate, surely I've earned it, where I can just start coming out really hard. I just don't want to look unhinged. I should have just
insulting him. Secondly, when he was talking, you were interrupting a lot. I tried to stop you.
But it also mind me too when the moderator's against me at the same time. I also get super mind because it would be super easy to like if I went off on him here and I was like, "Sir, you haven't responded to a single point, blah 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 blah," and then the moderator would have stopped me. I don't know if that would give me the appearance of looking unhinged. I don't know.
Now you're talking. He's interrupting.
So let him interrupt.
So what I'd like for both of you to do is just make your points in a slightly calmer and more respectful way. Go ahead.
What do you mean both of you? Come on. What do you mean both of us? Seriously?
Right. So what he just did is he said,
"You look good when they soy out and you respond nonchalantly." Maybe, I don't know. I need to go abduct random people off the street and make them watch this and say, "Does this guy look unhinged to you? The guy on the right?"
the conditions for the largest slaughter of Jews since 1945 were created by President Trump. That's horrific. That's almost.
Stephen?
He's not responding to me. See, like right here, the moderator f***ed me so hard. Make him answer the question. Oh God, I would rather just have a one-on-one debate with Gorka, because having a fake moderator hurts me worse than having no moderator. Because at least with no moderator, we can just be screaming at each other. But now, like this guy gets the illusion of appearing more credible in the conversation when the moderator is carrying so much water for him. Like, make him answer the question.
Chill for a second, both of you. Seb, go ahead.
It's almost like a blood libel.
Oh my God. I should just start jerking off. I need to bring paper towels. I need to start masturbating so that I would force the moderator to actually do something. I should start jerking off. I should open up Horus Hente porn on my fucking iPad. I should start masturbating. That's what I should do. Or take out a fat doob. No, I need to take out a crack pipe. I should just take out a crack pipe and start smoking crack, because I need to get on his level. This is what I need to get to where you're at right now. I need the crack. I need the Nebraska crack pipe. And then I'll take out a hat, a thing of alfalfa, and chew on it.
It's really,
and I'll make sure it's gay porn. Oh, I think I even get, oh yeah, it just happens here. I get so.
For a second, both of you. Seb, go ahead.
It's almost like a blood libel. It's really, the fact that this man, let me talk to you about who Donald Trump is. For 23 years, swamp politicians of left and right broke a promise to Israel. Bill Clinton said, "I'm going to recognize Jerusalem as the capital of the Jewish state, and I'm going to move our embassy." Because of that statute, every 6 months for 23 years, the incumbent president, Clinton, Obama, and Bush, had to send a diplomatic missive to Jerusalem saying, "Sorry, I know we promised this, but we're not doing it now." When my former boss was chosen by 63
I should bring a crack pipe with me to these debates. That would be based.
million Americans to be the chief executive, he said, "I'm doing this." By the way...
Oh shit, I think I just started typing in DGG here. Dude, I'm so done with this debate. Wait, where are my logs at? I think I started typing in chat and I'm like, "What's up? This guy's fucking unhinged. Like, I hate this conversation." Does anybody have my logs? Where are they? Link them from that day. This guy, LOL. He's rambling so much right now. He is so mad, LOL. It's not live. I was so triggered. There's no point even taking notes of this. He's not even like, "God, fuck, this is so boring." But I have Slay the Spire on my iPad now, so I'll just probably play a game the next time people do this shit. I think, actually, unironically, I think I'll try that. The game playing tactic, I'll just like break out a game and play. If you're not going to respond to shit I'm saying, if I have to waste my time being here, I could be making money streaming right now, and I'm wasting my time in front of this guy interviewing for a job. I don't need to be here.
When my former boss was chosen by 63 million Americans to be the chief executive, he said, "I'm doing this."
You should clearly lay out what just happened in the conversation and how insane his responses are. Like, really drive the point home. Yeah, but then I feel like I sound Sawyer insane when I'm like, just to be clear, he didn't answer any of my questions, or he didn't respond. Like, I did that a lot for Omar, and some people were saying I think I did that for Omar. Maybe I should. Maybe I do not. Maybe it's fine, actually. Maybe I'm just being too critical. Maybe this guy does look unhinged, and I look fine, and I'm just like annoyed because he's not responding to me. I think that's probably the case. I think he looks unhinged. I think most people should be able to see that. I don't think he's bringing up a single point of substance in this entire fucking conversation.
By the way, a man whose daughter is Jewish, whose grandchildren are Jewish, He held a meeting of the National Security Council at principals level, not the bureaucrats, but the actual cabinet members. And he told them all, I'm moving the embassy and I'm recognizing Jerusalem. Only 3 members of his cabinet, shockingly, supported him. And his Secretary of Defense, this man who had very carefully built his reputation as Mad Dog Mattis, was petrified and told the president, Mr. President, don't do this. You will ignite World War III, and I don't have enough Marines to protect our embassies. What was the president's response? He said, I'm doing this for 3 reasons, Jim. Number 1, I promised the people of America who elected me during the campaign. Number 2, for 23 years, we've told the Israelis we're going to do this and we haven't. We have dishonored our oath. And 3, it's the right thing to do, Jim. We moved the embassy and...
Do I bring up the Great March of Return happened under Donald Trump? Like that whole thing happened. Like that was literally like, in a way, that was kind of a precursor to October 7th. A bunch of people approaching the wall, trying to cut through it. Like there's a lot of crossover here. Like
no bombings, no slaughter of women at...
I wonder if I bring that up. Because that would have been under Trump, right? 2018, I forget the years of presidency. 2016, 2020, that would have been under Donald Trump. I should have...
Concerts in the desert. No men being beheaded with blunt garden hose.
I don't think I'd bring that up.
The unedited video of what happened on October the 7th. Strangely, none of that happened. But when Joe Biden comes in, surrenders Afghanistan, and Ukraine is invaded, then we have 1,300 Jews massacred.
Suddenly?
No, it's not Donald Trump's fault that he recognized Jerusalem, moved our embassy. It's because nobody fears the senile old man in the White House who talks to dead people and thinks his wife is his sister. That's why the world is on fire. And don't you dare blame President Trump for what happened.
Don't you dare! I need to make fun of these guys more. I don't have to scream and hinge, but I should be making fun of them more.
On October the 7th, because that is despicable and you know it.
Stephen, there's other stuff I want to ask you about, but I feel like you should have a right to respond if you want to.
Yeah, there's no substantive analysis. I mean, it's a bunch of virtue signaling. It's a bunch of, how dare you? I saw the videos and blah, blah.
Oh, okay, good. All right, good.
Blah. But the reality is Donald Trump was an idiot when it came to foreign policy. He didn't understand the intricacies of any of the situations that he nor his administration were involved in. And a lot of the stuff that he did during his presidency was kind of a build-up to the frustrations that would obviously come out on October 7th and that horrible terrorist attack. It's funny that you were even slightly prescient without realizing it by saying that, like, well, if we move the embassy, there's got to be World War III. Yeah, moving the embassy and showing that kind of support for Israel while they're continuing to kick people out of neighborhoods in East Jerusalem, while the rest of the Arab world is having this huge separation between what their people think, because a lot of Arabs aren't really happy with Israel, but the leadership is kind of like done with the conflict and they want to move on. But it's continuing to antagonize those types of things. It's the Abraham Accords, again, these completely cut out the Palestinians from any of the conversation whatsoever. Donald Trump was a man who loved cheap victories. The idea that I could get bilateral peace between Israel and Saudi Arabia, who for all intents and purposes had already basically normalized like conversations with each other.
Yep.
You don't think it was historic?
No. The Abraham Accords? No.
I don't even get to finish my ramble. I can't yap after this guy yapped?
Absolutely not. The impetus for the Abraham Accords was, if you look at what's going on in Palestine, there's a big part of the West Bank called Area C that Israel is holding on to, and Netanyahu was essentially signaling that he was about to start to formally annex parts of these. So they formally annexed the Golan Heights a while ago. You've got East Jerusalem.
A long time ago, actually. Nobody calls me out on that, though, because I think Golan Heights were formally annexed in the 70s? When did Israel formally annex the Golan Heights? Israel annexed Golan Heights. Oh, no, 80s, 81. Yeah, close enough.
Jerusalem is more or less formally annexed now by Israel, and now they were going to start to encroach into Area Cs and formally annex that, because I think it's kind of the goal for Israel. And I think it was Qatar, I think, that might have been the first ones to say this, but like, we need to talk and do something, because if this happens, it's going to be catastrophic. And then Kushner inserted himself into this process, and then we got the Abraham Accords out of that to delay essentially the annexation of the West Bank.
When he prods more, it makes you look better. Maybe, I hope. Because I can't tell, because like if he prods, like I always have an answer to every single thing that's ever brought up. I can always answer any question. Whatever these people bring up, I always answer everything. But it feels like when I bring up questions, this guy doesn't answer anything. He never has an answer for me. Cormentine, if that's his name, right? This guy was a better debater than Gorka. Gorka doesn't answer a single fucking thing.
But again, it was a cheap win without solving any actual problems, because the big stickler right now, at least in the Gulf states and in the Levant, is Palestine and Palestinians, and Trump got us no closer to any of that. Again, a cheap win, whether it's the Abraham Accords or the Doha talks with the Taliban, in exchange for an actual real solution, which would have been lasting peace solved for Afghanistan, or an actual deal that involved the Palestinians. Donald Trump wanted neither of those, but man, we sure got a lot of really good stories and moving speeches about it.
I want one sentence, just one sentence or one word. I want the viewers and the listeners to note his choice of words, which is very telling. This man labeled October the 7th the result of frustrations.
What a weird virtue signal. Like, do you know who the fuck I am? Like, come on, bro. I'm literally the pro-genocide guy. This is the virtue signal you're going to go for with me? Get the fuck out of here.
The murder of women and children and grandmothers is justified as the result of frustrations.
Justified?
Okay,
file that away.
You got your sentence in. I didn't mean it in any dismissive way. I'm just trying to make sure that you both have the right amount of time and being fair.
Damn, how am I so fucking calm in these conversations? What the fuck am I doing? I gotta be like popping some kind of Xanax or something. How am I not? It's such a stupid fucking statement. My God.
I'm just trying to make sure that you both have the right amount of time and being fair. So the one question I think that
I must have been Xanxed up. It's the drugs, Vyvanse? No, remember, this is like my week off, I think. I hadn't taken my shit in like a week here.
We ought to be thinking about in terms of the geopolitics side of things is Donald Trump could be reelected or Joe Biden could be reelected. How do you think Joe Biden is going to improve the global situation? I think we all accept that the world is on fire in terms of everything that's going on. The conflict in Ukraine, the conflict in Israel and Gaza. If Joe Biden is reelected, what gives you hope that he's going to resolve these things in the way that you talked about, having some kind of long-term solution to these very complicated, difficult issues? How do you think he'll solve that?
When I think of the three hotbed spots right now, in my mind, I'm thinking China and Taiwan, I'm thinking Ukraine and Russia, and I'm thinking Israel and Palestine. I think are the three hotbed foreign policy things right now. When I look at when I look at Joe Biden's behavior for Ukraine, I feel like it was about as well as it could have been, in that we were able to gather a wide amount of support across Europe. We were able to energize our allies. We were able to add to our NATO roster. We were able to raise a lot of money and send stuff to Ukraine, while at the same time drawing like a very clear, like, listen, we're supporting them, but we're not going to have troops on the ground. We're not going to do no-fly zones. We're not going to do anything crazy. Nothing that's going to set us on some road, that we can't turn back from to go to World War III, but we're going to support them as much as we can, basically. I wish the support would be a little bit stronger. I understand the hesitation, though, in that they don't want Ukraine to be able to strike into Russia because there's concerns about escalatory stuff there. I wish the support was a bit stronger, but I think for the most part, I think Biden's handling of the Ukraine-Russia situation was
May I pause you just there? Because on that issue, my perspective is slightly different in that I understand the hesitation about offering more help, and it's a lot of money, and it doesn't enjoy as much domestic support as it did at the beginning of the conflict, etc. But I can tell you what's happening on the ground now is, even though these bills are very controversial in America and they're hard to pass, that $61 billion, it's not going to make any difference on the ground. Ukraine is losing.
He has like all of the Russian talking points for Ukraine. I've heard and seen, read different things from the one general guy speaking. Obviously, Anna comes on and talks, and I've heard different things. But him doing the whole I've got family in Ukraine. It's like, well, fuck me, dude. Do I really want to argue with this guy about
$61 billion? It's not going to make any difference on the ground. Ukraine is losing. I'm sad to say this. I was very keen advocate of us helping them. I don't know that I would agree with you that strategy is going to be effective going forward. What I'm saying is, if the current way of dealing with that situation continues, what will happen is Ukraine will keep losing hundreds of thousands of men, as Russia will. Ukrainians will lose territory, and eventually they will get a worse deal than the one that they might have done a year ago when the Ukrainians made huge advantages, thanks to the weaponry and the support that the United States provided. So how do you think Joe Biden is likely to resolve that situation going forward? Because I will put it to you, what's happening now is not working.
Okay, I haven't heard the same, but maybe we talk to different people or see different things. I've got a lot of friends that go back and forth between the front lines, and I've heard there were huge complaints relating to amount of shells available or what they thought the support would look like. So, for instance, sometimes you can't advance, not because you don't have the weapons to advance, but once you advance, you don't think you have the supplies to maintain that advance.
Well, that is what's happened, right? They retook territory, and now they've been sliding back. Now, I'm not saying the artillery shells they're going to get now are going to make no difference, like in small situations, but on the big picture, it's not going to make any difference.
Well,
Ukraine
we've got F-16s are supposed to be online, I think, by the end of this year, or maybe even in the next few months. I'll be honest. I'm not going to be delusional. Ukraine winning, I think, is still probably like a less than 50% chance thing of happening. And when I say win, I mean like at least take back Donetsk and Luhansk. I think there's an important question to be asked about like, who's to tell Ukraine not to fight? Like, if we have the ability to supply them with weapons, and if we want to stand by them for as long as they're willing to fight, doesn't that send an important message to, say, China, where we would say we would support Taiwan, or we would support them in whatever capacity that we feel is responsible until we feel like the fight is completely over, rather than like, well, we're a democracy, so if you can make the war last for a couple of years, it's probably going to be unpopular, and we're going to pull out, which is historically like a strength or a weakness that democracies kind of have. So I think that showing support for Ukraine is important in two ways. One is the moral way, that if they want to fight, they should be enabled to. It's funny, I hear foreign people express more concern over people dying in Ukraine in this war than I've ever heard Ukrainians express. Like, I'll hear people all over the world be like, oh my God, these poor Ukrainians, they're dying, we need to stop supporting them. And then I hear Ukrainians say, we want to fight, Russia is taking our territory.
Look, my wife's Ukrainian, my mother's Ukrainian.
I hate this strategy. God, it's such a fucking cop-out talking point. Kill me. Kill me, kill me, kill me, kill me, kill me. I'm pretty sure everything he's saying is in contrast to, what is the, well, I don't know, let's check. What is it right now? Ukraine support for current war. What are like the most recent polls? Has it changed? 3 and 5 interviewed in July and August said they wanted Ukraine to fight. Okay, so this was 60%, and then Ukraine should seek to negotiate an ending to the war as soon as possible. 31%. What are the numbers at now? Does anybody know? Is there like a recent Ukraine, Russia, war, popularity, support, Ukraine? This is Russian public support. Okay. Well, the last polls I've seen seem to show that Ukrainians still want to fight, so.
I'm very concerned about Ukrainians dying because I have family and friends on the ground. Now, at the same time, I've always said from day one, as I think you both know, is that Ukraine needs the support that we were giving them to get the best possible deal, because they were always going to lose territory. So I guess what I'm saying is, how is this conflict going to come to the best possible end for the Ukrainians, which is what I care about, right, under Joe Biden? How is he going to, in your opinion, resolve that? Because throwing some artillery shells at them when they get desperate every now and then.
This is in April. IRI Ukraine poll, strong majorities believe in victory over Russia, support European Union and NATO membership. The latest public opinion survey in Ukraine, conducted by the International Republican Institute's Center for Insights and Survey Research. Strong majorities believe. This is February of 2024. 88% of Ukrainians believe they will win the war against Russia. Is that true? This seems higher than the other one. 77% support joining the EU and NATO. I don't know, whatever. If somebody finds an opposite poll, let me know, but.
And again, doesn't seem to me like the route to what we might want for them, and also for the interest of the West.
Yeah, I think that the path forward is to supply them as much as and as long as they're willing to fight, and then once it seems like the fight is done, or Ukrainians lose the will to fight, or it's basically positioned itself into a war where no gains are being made or lost, then at that point you look for some kind of off-ramp or some kind of peace deal. So Ukraine would negotiate with Russia, with somebody mediating. I don't even know who would mediate that, but that's basically all you can do. But I'm not sure. I don't know significantly more, I guess, what the U.S. could do in that case.
Well, I guess what American people, I imagine, would want to know is, like, if we vote for Joe Biden again, how is he going to make this problem go away? I guess that's how most people would just be thinking about this.
Well, unfortunately, it's not. I'm
going to ask him all these same questions.
No, yeah, I understand. Yeah. I don't think there's anything the U.S. president could just make it go away. We could tell Ukraine, like, we'll stop fighting right now. But
what we could say to them is, look, we've come to the end of the road. There's clearly the domestic situation is such that we're not going to be able to give you much more. It's time to start looking for the deal.
Do you think is it the U.S.'s place to say that if Ukraine wants to continue to fight?
Well, the U.S.'s place is to decide whether the U.S. is going to provide weapons or not, and then Ukrainians can make their own decision.
But I'm saying, like, if Ukraine wants to fight, should we say, well, we don't want you to fight anymore, we're going to pull that?
What I think we're misunderstanding.
Do I make him answer this question? He's being such a fence sitter on this. Answer the fucking question. Whether or not Ukraine continues to fight is dictated by what the U.S. feels about it. Or maybe Europe, if they step in and replace the U.S. Like, answer that question.
Other on is this: if the president of the United States was to say to the Ukrainians, we are not going to provide you with more weapons, the Ukrainians would then have a choice to make. They would not make the choice to keep fighting.
Yeah, of course. But that's what I'm asking, I guess, is it because we truly are making the choice for them, regardless, right? Like, if we continue to support them, we're at least enabling them to say yes or no. Yep. But if we say, okay, well, we're kind of pulling out, then you guys are done fighting. Like, is it the United States' place, if we have the opportunity and the means to help, should the United States say we're done?
Well, that's what I'm asking you. So
my God, he doesn't answer my questions either. Nobody, why can't anybody answer a fucking question here? Does anybody notice this and nobody can answer any of my fucking questions ever? Nobody can answer my fucking questions.
I don't think we should, and I don't think Biden would.
So what I'm hearing from you is, if the United States votes for Joe Biden, he will continue to give them support at the level that he can muster, in order that they can keep fighting or not, depending on what they want.
That would be my assumption. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't see that changing.
And on this side of things, is there anything more you want to say before I go to Seb?
For Israel Palestine, I think that is an incredibly touchy issue. I don't think that Trump has the ability to navigate
focus on Biden. What would Biden do to solve that?
For Biden, I think that Biden has done a good job at providing support for an ally, which I think is always important, because the United States needs to be seen as supporting people they say they'll support, while also trying to rein in Israel a bit. So I think we were saying that, I don't know how true these conversations are, but as of recently, I think Biden was telling Israel that, like, if there's a huge Rafah raid, if a bunch of people start dying, like, we're going to start to condition some of this military aid. I know that initially when they announced their invasion on the 7th, I think that we encouraged them, like, you need to wait and chill for people to actually move out of northern Gaza before you guys start attacking. I know we've pressured them a lot to allow more humanitarian aid in.
The crossing in the north.
Opening.
Yeah, good job. Bring up the pier.
The port, the humanitarian aid port that's being built by the United States.
Okay.
So the Navy Corps, the Engineering Corps. I think that was a really good idea. I would hope to see more of that, but I also imagine that this conflict is probably going to be mostly done by election season. The Rafah invasion is happening, and then after that, I don't know what else there is to do in the Gaza Strip, but I feel like whatever that situation looks like afterwards, whether that's Israel occupying Gaza for some short period of time or whatever, I think it looks better under Biden, because I think Biden is more likely to tell Israel, like, hey, like, you're not going to start building settlements here, or hey, you're not going to do this or that, because he's already sanctioned some people on the West Bank who are building outposts. I think that Biden would have a better handle on controlling Ukraine there, rather than Trump, who I feel would give a little bit more unconditional support. Controlling Israel, I think. I don't know if I just said Ukraine.
Yeah, you meant Israel.
Yeah, okay.
Good call. Good correction.
If the people of the United States vote for President Trump in 2014, how is he? You said the world's on fire. 2024. We're all getting everything wrong. Let's start again. If the people can't do it. If he
wins, if the good guy wins.
I'm neutral in this debate, so
you just wrote a book on saving Western civilization.
I did. I'm not sure electing Donald Trump is the only way to do that, but if the people of the United States elect President Trump again to be their leader, you said the world is on fire. Yeah. How is he going to extinguish those fires and bring peace to the world?
Well, at the risk of talking about what I did in the White House, because they're just stories, but I think they matter historically.
Come on, be the bigger man. Come on.
I got this question asked all the time when we were there, saying, what's President Trump's national security stance? What's his foreign policy stance? What makes him different? And I just spent 2.5 years teaching the Marines at Quantico, and I just stole their motto. I said, under President Trump as Commander-in-Chief, no better friend, no worse enemy. And
what does he mean by be the bigger man there? What is that? But then what? What does he mean by that? What was even the point of that?
I did. I'm not sure electing Donald Trump is the only way to do that, but if the people of the United States elect President Trump again to be their leader, you said the world is on fire. Yeah. How is he going to extinguish those fires and bring peace to the world?
Well, at the risk of talking about what I did in the White House, because they're just stories, but I think they matter historically.
Come on, be the bigger man. Come on.
Like, they're just stories. They are just stories. Like, they are. Be the bigger man. This guy's been insulting and interrupting me and not answering a single fucking question.
I got this question asked all the time when we were there, saying, what's President Trump's national security stance? What's his foreign policy stance? What makes him different? And I just spent 2.5 years teaching the Marines at Quantico, and I just stole their motto. I said, under President Trump as Commander-in-Chief, no better friend, no worse enemy. And it's exactly what we did. Bad guys around the world were petrified. Good guys felt safe, whether it's Israel, the UK.
Hey, yo, the FBI fired him at Quantico? Oh, I don't even know anything about that.
NATO nations, they understood American leadership was back. With regards to specific conflicts, President Trump has said what he's going to do in Ukraine. He will end the fighting very rapidly by, behind closed doors, saying to Zelensky, look, I know you want your country back, but you have to sit down and negotiate.
This is such a God, he's like a kid. He's like a child, and all of his answers are so childlike. It's so stupid. PhD in poli-sci, worked in the White, like nothing works this way. This isn't the way of any part of the world, and you should know. Like, ugh.
You know, it has to happen now, and I'll help you. And then he says to Vladimir Putin the obverse of what you were positing. He says, you need to sit down now with Kiev, or the aid we have given already will be minuscule to what I'm going to give Zelensky.
May I pause you there?
Yes.
Because this is an important thing to tease out. That is one of the reasons that to me seems like a credible way of solving that conflict. I've said this from day one. Whoever does that deal has to go in with...
Why is it that hold on, I haven't been keeping track of this in my head as much. When he cuts him off, why is he cutting him off to agree with him and bolster his point? What?
The carrot and the stick.
Correct.
How is Donald Trump going to go in there and make the claim that he will quadruple?
Also, do I call this out? What is the implication? Wait, so the war is winnable? You're telling me that if we increase aid to Ukraine, they actually could win the war? But you're saying we shouldn't do it anyway? Like, do I call that out? What a weird...
Or 10x the aid that's already been given to Ukraine, when half his own party basically supports Russia at this point. I mean, that's an exaggeration. That's an unfair thing to say. But you know what I mean.
Yeah, I know what you mean. But that's not a public discussion. I very specifically said
no, but why would Putin believe...
Why does this have to be a behind-the-scenes discussion, but chastising our NATO allies for not contributing enough militarily, that has to be a public discussion, right?
That threat.
Because he's made a measure of this man for 4 years. He understands that this isn't about bluff. When you decide to use chemical weapons, we'll turn your chemical weapons base into a sheet of glass. If you're planning to kill 600 US servicemen in the Middle East, we'll...
Oh, I like how he's a little bit more accurate in his retelling of what happened with the Wagner Group when they got annihilated by a US airstrike. And it wasn't because Trump wanted to find and destroy them. It was because they tried to attack... I don't know if it was an oil refinery that was under U.S. care, but it was some place that was being protected by U.S. forces, and that's why they got annihilated.
Kill you with a drone as you're on your way to meet the puppet prime minister of Iraq. That's what we did to Qasem Soleimani.
I know, but
he knows the words mean something.
Yes, but I'm just saying, if Putin's thinking about it logically, which I believe he is, then he will say, look, Donald Trump is saying to me he's going to throw the kitchen sink and give everything Ukraine that they possibly could get. But at the same time, I see the internal divisions that we've talked about already. How is Donald Trump going to sell this to his own party?
This guy is trying too hard to LARP as Hitchens, but is too much of an invalid to pull it off. Okay.
When half of the people involved are really against helping Ukraine at all. And that seems to me like a not particularly credible threat, even if it's coming from Donald Trump.
But again, you're mixing open political communications with what is done behind closed doors, diplomatic. He doesn't have to go to Congress and say, I'm about to tell Vlad this, and you better back me up. That's not how it works.
Yeah, let's just clarify.
He's saying, and he's trying to ask like the most basic question. Okay, but like, let's say that he says that and Putin says no. Well, how will he then get support for the funding? It's like, it's a very obvious basic question, right?
What I'm saying is, let's say that they are sitting behind closed doors. Why would Vladimir Putin believe the threat if he knows that Donald Trump can't then go back and actually sell the 10x of support to his own people?
Because it's a risky bet.
Oh my God. Exactly. Destiny's ego can't handle it, though. What can my ego not handle? Who's getting banned in YouTube chat? Is the moderator that bad? He seemed fine to me for the most part. Okay. Zay, thanks for the tier 4 suburb, buddy.
To say, he can't communicate this to his base, and I'm not going to take him seriously. That's a very dangerous... I mean, did you watch the Victory Day parade yesterday in Moscow?
With one tank, yes, I did.
Not just one tank. It was one T-34. Yeah. Not even the T-80, right? During the Cold War, it was Scud missiles, it was ZS-3 324s, it was hundreds of tanks. One tank from the 1930s. I don't think he can risk hundreds of thousands of Russians on the off chance that, he may not get that support from Congress. I'm just going to bluff him out.
Let me ask you a different way.
Why, if that's the case, if Russia is on the fringe of being able to even support this war, then why wouldn't we just unleash Ukraine's full potential and give them whatever they need to fight then? If this is really the case,
do you think it's credible to argue that Donald Trump could get the Republican Party to 10x support for Ukraine? You think he can sell that? You think he
And now we've got the same question asked again for the third or fourth time to see if we can finally get Gorka to engage with and ask the question, or answer the question.
Get the Republican Party to 10x support for Ukraine? You think he can sell that? You think he can?
Well, look, he wrote The Art of the Deal.
Oh my God.
The party is really his. With Lara, co-chair of the RNC, with a lot of the rhinos actually resigning or not running again this year. I'm worried.
But it's not the rhinos who are the problem on Ukraine.
No, it's the isolationists. But I don't think the isolationists can go up against President Trump and say, yeah, sorry, you won the election, you're the president, but we're going to, we're not behind you.
You think he can take the party with him on that?
I think he can, but I think the more important thing is he can convince Putin behind closed doors that, dude, don't risk it. It's not worth it. And with regards to everything else, it's really...
If that's true, why didn't he get him to just pull out of Crimea then? Does the invasion happen if Russia doesn't already control Crimea? I mean, they had at least for Sevastopol regardless. But I feel like that it's possible that it looks different, that invasion looks different if they didn't already have basically the entire peninsula under control. Maybe, I don't know. But why if Trump was able to do all this, then why is it that when Trump in his office, why didn't he just tell him to fuck out of Crimea?
Quite amusing now that we're 6 months away from the election. I'm doing more and more international media. And when, the news agency of Sweden or Poland or whatever comes and they say, so what's it going to be like if President Trump wins? And I always say, were you alive when he was president? It was only a few years ago. It's going to be a redo of that. So whether it's China policy, it's going to be a very forthright, robust economic trade war with China. Whether it's the mullahs, it's going to be, the swinging sanctions.
Destiny, you need to aggressively hold the moderator's hand when you make any points or ask any questions. It is now a valid debate tactic.
Regime we put in place that almost had the whole of the economy of the IRGC on its knees by the end of the Trump administration. With regards to NATO, we'll be back to what the current Secretary General Stoltenberg, who is a former left-wing prime minister and minister of the environment, said is absolutely what it should be, with increased spending and every member meeting its 2% of GDP target force goals. So if you want to know what it's going to be like, it'll be like the Trump administration the first time around,
but
with
better.
The special addition of the deal with Vladimir Putin to scare him into negotiating. And then with regards to Israel, it's pretty obvious. This is the most philo-Semitic president since 1948 in the rebirth of Israel. And I expect President Trump...
I don't even know what that means. Did he say philo-Semitic? I don't know what the fuck that means.
...to give Israel everything they need.
And how will he look to settle that issue long term? Because obviously that's an ongoing conflict.
Right.
It has been. I feel like the world...
he's not giving any real answers. This is such bullshit. I feel like I should try... I wonder if I should just try a debate like this. What would Biden do to help Israel? Biden is one of the strongest Israel supporters that the country of America has ever seen, the country of Israel has ever seen. Biden will be the strongest supporter of Israel. We will do whatever it takes to make sure that every Israeli is safe so that we can avoid any more future terrorist attacks. Doing what by supporting them strongly? How? With American might and support. In what ways? In closed deals in secret deals behind closed doors. Oh my God.
It's come to a point where everyone is horrified by what they're seeing, irrespective of what their political position is. The fact that conflict is happening is horrific, and it has reached horrific levels of mass killing, right?
Right, but we also have people on, U.S. campuses who are, chanting from the river to the sea. So they may be horrified, but they're actually on the wrong side of that conflict. Look, with regards to the Middle East, we'll try and revivify the Abraham Accords. But with regards to Gaza...
The Abraham Accords aren't in trouble right now. The issue is Israel-Palestine. The Abraham Accords have nothing to do with that.
We have to be very blunt here. They have to kill every terrorist, every single terrorist responsible for October the 7th. But if you look at every poll, there's been 3 significant polls taken since October the 7th of Gazan residents. And between 72 and 78% of the residents support what happened on October the 7th. That is not something that is militarily soluble, right? You have an environment, you have a population that supports genocidal murder of women and children. I think the long-term solution, it's an un-American answer because it's not really a solution. We tend to think we can solve everything. It's a far more European one. Israel, after October the 7th, has to kill everyone responsible for that attack, and then they will be responsible for the security of Gaza for the foreseeable future. Not Hamas, not anybody else.
Israel. Do we then not go back to square one, where essentially Israel is living with a population who are being badly treated or feel that, let's just use neutral language, who feel that they're being very badly treated, they're oppressed, they're going to rise up against it, and we're just going to have more terrorism, and all of this horror is just going to continue?
Look,
I'm not saying I have a better answer, by the way.
This was my thing for 20 years, was counterterrorism policy. Effective counterterrorism is about attacking 2 things. It's like any enemy, really. You have to attack their capability to hurt you, and you have to undermine their will to hurt you.
Wow. It's just such... This is why, to be fair, it's not just him that does this. This is why whenever I have conversations and I'm ever talking like political theory or anything, I always try to ground it out in a real life example, because without actually having applied examples of whatever theory you're talking about, it's just like, it's such lip service to nothing. Like, okay, wow.
The Israelis have been very good at the capability thing, right? We take out their chief bomb makers, we interdict their supply of arms from Iran and elsewhere. The question is the will thing. Will you create more terrorists? There's no really good solution to that. Why? Because the Arab states of the region don't want any Gazans. I mean, Egypt does not want any more Palestinians. Jordan is full of Palestinian quote-unquote refugees. If the Arab Muslim nations don't want that problem, Israel has to contain it. It's not...
The problem isn't the refuge. The problem is the lasting solution, though, between the 2 people. This isn't even like a...
Neat, but it's the best thing they can do given the conditions that you have more than 2/3 of the population are pro-terrorism.
Well, gentlemen, we've had a great hour and a half. We've got one segment that we still haven't covered, which is what's happening on US college campuses. I imagine you see that very differently. That ties into the election because of Biden and Trump and how they've responded to that. We're going to go to locals to talk about that and answer questions from you guys, which I will be putting to both Stephen and Seb. Head on over to locals right now for the rest of this debate.
I don't even remember what we talked about at the end of this.
The question I want to ask you is a question I can't ask you on YouTube, which is about January the 6th and everything that happened around that. Right. Do you believe the 2020 election was stolen?
So to say that he went along with the peaceful transfer of power is just a lie.
Well, he did, because he left the White House.
Yes, after he failed to steal the election.
Seems kind of pointless to attempt debating when you and your opponent can't agree on the fundamental nature of reality. I wonder who he's talking about. Literally could be either one of us. Who knows? Well said. It's all pointless. It's like arguing theoretical physics with a flat earther. Spot on. Carl Schmitt's friend-enemy distinction explains this. Most political debates are just debates about what is true or false, unfortunately. As long as you can see one person isn't willing to engage in meaningful analysis, and that's why the break occurs, it's still worthwhile. What do you think? I still don't know whose side they're on for these. It's not about them changing each other. It's about influencing you and your opinion. I know exactly what you mean. Why are they even having this DB on the podcast? Douchebag? I guess are they probably talking about me? Stop giving Destiny a platform unless you're trying to get more likes and exposure on your podcast. 11 thumbs up. Wow. Oh, I like listening to Destiny debating things.
Buddy.
What? Hi, what's up?
Debate and it was like paywalled behind Rumble. So can you just like TLDR it? How'd the rest of it go?
I don't fucking remember. This whole conversation was probably the same as this, though.
And you don't remember what he said about January 6th and all that shit?
I think he defended it, but then I think I brought up like the electoral scheme, and it seems like he wasn't even aware of it. So I don't even know. It's fucking stupid.
Well, he worked for Trump, so he probably wouldn't know what Trump was up to. It's probably the only way you could survive in that job.
Possibly, yeah.
Couple of things, though. I think you killed it, dude. I think that the one that I think that probably the best point that you made with respect to like domestic record, that I think even Constantine, the fact that he recognized like, hey, that was a really good point. You should probably try to answer this, Sebastian. Is the managerial and administrative stuff. The fact that so many Trump supporters and former cabinet officials and advisors, either sideline the guy or won't support him. I love the fact that you kept hitting that. Did you think that that was like a worthwhile thing to pursue and that you might pursue in other debates?
Maybe I could have. That was actually going to be one of my bigger points for that Alex Jones debate.
The one with Greenwald?
Yeah, fuck. Hold on. Give me 1 second.
Sure.
Oh, yeah. I wanted to literally just like run down a list. I even like prepared a whole last list of people for this. It was Bill Stepien, his national field director, Chris Miller, his director for national counter. Yeah, William Barr, Jeffrey Rosen, Richard Donahue, Chris Steyerwalt. Like these
Mark
are all
Esper.
like high. Yeah,
Yep.
Jason Miller, Mike Pence, Matthew Morgan, Brad Raffensperger, Brian Kemp. The group of Republicans that went through his the 4 federal judges and the 2 former senators, a lawyer, and someone who worked at Capitol Hill for 20 years. Yeah, the criticisms of his like voter fraud stuff. I could just like, run down a list. It's insane that you could be surrounded by so many people that don't like you.
Yeah, so I DM'd you. There's a clip. I don't know if you remember who Anthony Scaramucci was, but he was like Trump's communications director for like 10 minutes, and he's one of the 40 ex-Trump supporters who will not endorse him and are endorsing President Biden. And he has a really good metaphor. He's like, the thing is, there is no rational counter-argument to this. He's like, if we were 40 members on the board of directors for a pharmaceutical company and we signed a letter saying, do not take this drug, it will kill you, nobody would take the fucking drug. Or if we worked for an auto company, said, hey, this car will kill you, don't buy this car, nobody would buy the car. So he makes a good point that there is no rational counter-argument to the fact that so many hand-picked Trump appointees are now saying don't vote for the guy.
Yeah, but I mean, like their response is always going to be the deep state, right? Well, that's because they're all part of the deep state. They have to say this, otherwise they're going to get Seth Riched by Hillary Clinton.
Well, to your point, I mean, that's where it's proof it's a religion, right? Because
yeah, of course.
If Trump picks, if anything good happens on Trump's watch, it was because of him. If people are criticizing him, that's proof of the deep state, and it may be a 4D chess move to expose these people for a second Trump term, so he knows not to hire them. It's all unfalsifiable shit. But I thought you killed that part. The other thing I think it was good that you mentioned in chat, or somebody pushed back on this in chat, which is like, well, both sides, neither side. It was in reference to the border bill, and somebody in chat said neither side will put what's good for the country ahead of partisanship. If this ever comes up, I think a good example is the fact that in 2020, when COVID hit, both sides, well, at least Trump did, Trump eventually recognized it as a crisis. Democrats were saying COVID was a crisis from the beginning. And what did Pelosi do? This was months after she tried to impeach the motherfucker. She whipped votes for 2 massive stimulus bills that had Trump's name on it. So it's like,
the PPP was under Trump, right? I think?
Right.
Yeah.
Correct. And American Heroes and CARES and stuff like that. So you can make the case that, listen, for all their faults, Democrats will whip votes to give a guy that they tried to impeach, that they hate, that they're running against in an election year, an electoral victory because it's what's best for the country. Whereas, to your point, a Republican-authored bill by James Lankford, the second most conservative Republican in the Senate, won't go anywhere because Trump says, it's a wedge issue. And Lindsey Graham is also somebody else who explicitly said it as well. But anyway, I thought you did a really, really good job, but you did not enjoy it at all. Like this was.
All right. I mean, when I watch him back, I think I'm kind of harsh on myself. It was probably fine, I guess. It just when my expectation is unrealistic. But like when I see people like this in my mind, nobody should be listening to this guy and thinking he's made almost any good points. Like everybody should universally be like, oh yeah, this guy was clearly a demagogue, clearly out of his depth, clearly not equipped or prepared or worthy even of this conversation. The fact that it's so divided feels insane to me. It's just wild.
What was if you could say you had a weak moment or your weakest, what was your weakest point in this debate?
I wish I remembered more specifically about the Minsk Accords. I hate that I let him push me around at all on Ukraine just because of that Ukraine family line. I should have attacked him for it. I think I should have made personal attacks against the fact that he says he has family members in Ukraine, but he wants to give up the country to Russians. I am really upset that I let him.
You're talking about the moderator there, Constantine, right?
Yeah. There's nothing to respond. Gorka, I don't know. Maybe just telling better stories or something. Oh, constructive. I could have focused more on constructivism. I think I should have provided more positive stuff in my favor. Like, oh, America would be better for this or that, maybe. It's something I've been trying to work on more. But like
make more of an affirmative case for Biden, or is that what you mean?
Well, make more of an affirmative case for my view of America, because I think Trump's is very negative, I think, but...
Yeah. Well, like I said, dude, I think you killed it. The only other thing I'll point out is on Afghanistan, you were very strong on that too. But what's interesting is he brings up, which very few people talk about this. He's like, listen, we inked the Doha agreement, but it was conditions based. And this is something that if you go back and check that Special Inspector General's report, which you mentioned, there were conditions. Like in theory, when Trump made the deal with Doha, the Taliban and Trump both imposed conditions on one another. Mm-hmm. We were never given a list of what those conditions are. It's just called 7 or 8 conditions. Like a couple of them are mentioned. One of them was like, don't shoot U.S. troops.
Sure.
That was the one condition that the Taliban honored. According to Mark Milley, according to General McKenzie, who was like the operational commander for Afghanistan, the other 7 conditions were not met. So Trump did not enforce the conditions that he demanded of the Taliban, and Trump honored all of the demands that the Taliban made of him. So like releasing 5,000 soldiers and stuff like that. So that's something else to mention. Like,
but he would just say that, well, then Trump wouldn't have pulled our troops out. He would have just stayed there, I guess, forever.
Yeah, I suppose, but again, if you look at that Special Inspector General's report, there's evidence to the contrary that Trump was also basically making a date certain for May of 2021. But yeah, to your point, I suppose he could be like, well, that's true, but we were never going to pull out. He was eventually going to enforce it, and if he didn't, we would have never pulled out. But
I wish I could. I don't know how to balance the thing. Like, I want to force answers on some things, but the thing I get into is if I don't, like, I feel like I have to ramble because they ramble, and the only way to counter ramble, I think, is to ramble. But like, I wish I could force answers on individual things at points. Like, why did we abandon the Kurds in Syria that we fought alongside? Like, I want to answer that. But I feel like if I just ask a question that simply, I would get like another 5-minute yap, and then I could ask it again, and he'd get to yap so much more. I think he already spoke more than me in this debate, and it's like...
He did. Oh, also, another good point was the attack on the bases, that Iran's attacks on bases. That
in Saudi Arabia. Yeah, where was our big response to that? We didn't do fuck all.
Yeah, and what was interesting was Constantine's response to that. He was like, what's that have to do with anything compared to, I think it was like you were comparing it to Russia's invasion of Ukraine, and your whole point was, well, that was a direct attack, and Trump didn't respond to it, so, why should Putin assume that if he attacks Ukraine, Trump would do anything about that? So I don't know. It definitely felt at times like a 2v1, which I kind of expected because the guy always struck me as a bit of a closet Trump supporter. But yeah. Anyway, you killed it. Are you going to have like any more Republican debates or debates like this scheduled, or is that the last?
I don't know. It seems like after people talk to me, it seems like they get pretty ass mad and don't want to do it again. So I don't know. I feel like I'm running through most of these people, and I don't know if. Yeah, I'm waiting. They ask me, I think I've gone on 2 or 3 or 4 times now. They shoot me messages about stuff, so we'll see what that ends up looking like. Like if I imagine as the election comes up, more stuff is going to open up to me. So yeah, we'll say the election season looks. That's what we're kind of like pulling back the slingshot for.
Yeah, awesome. All right, buddy. Well, listen, you have a good rest of your night. Okay.
Yep. I love you. Be careful.
All right. See ya. Love you. Bye.
Really, the clips I saw so far, Destiny sounded like he was a 7-year-old. I guess we'll see how the whole thing unfolds. Destiny likes to hear himself and argues to be right, as opposed to arguing to be wrong. It's an argument. Obviously, I've got conviction with what I say. His criticisms sound like a 7-year-old is doing it. He's scatterbrained and pulling stuff out of his rear end. He didn't make any strong arguments. He seems comparable to someone from The View. Really? When Gorka was literally just narrativizing the entire time? My God. Bro, everyone here on this channel knows what a clown Destiny is. He's an intellectual lightweight who's been paused by just about anyone on the right who's willing to debate him. He can't form cohesive arguments, sidetracks, moves goalposts, and in general is working off of a ton of misinformation. I believe he argues in good faith, but he's emblematic of the left, radicalized, misinformed, and disconnected from objective truth via an ideology. He still deserves credit for debating, but that's about it. Holy shit. 16 thumbs up. Yes, thumbs up. 17. Good job. My God. Exactly. Destiny doesn't even try to debate. He does the same trick most leftists have figured out they keep getting away with. Like now with Constantine failing to keep this as a debate, instead letting Destiny rant like a bum on bath salts in a city center. Personally, okay, this is the last one. I'm sorry. My God, these are insane. Personally, I watch people that have many different perspectives. Destiny has a locked mind. He is stuck in a mental bubble he is unable to break out of, and as a result, he becomes deranged when subjects like Trump are brought up. It shows how he is mentally unable to perceive a large part of reality. Destiny's criticism in the starting clip is every part of Trump's foreign policy was a disaster. That's not a criticism, it's blind hate. It's not remotely based upon reality. Arguing that Trump's foreign policy brought about Biden's yearly disasters of Afghanistan, Ukraine, Russia, and Israel-Hamas is an interesting take I would like to hear, if only to know the full extent of how crazy the people pushing it are. You don't understand how Trump bringing down troops out of Afghanistan and making an agreement with the Taliban affected the withdrawal from Afghanistan? True. 77 thumbs up. Good job. The man who facilitated the Doha agreement with the Taliban and moved the embassy to Jerusalem played no role in conflicts emerging in these regions? Good job. Negotiating with the Taliban while the Afghan government is still in power and armed to the teeth speaks for itself, and Hamas listed moves to annex all of Jerusalem as part of its motivation for October 7th. Not exactly sure how we can possibly believe his own takes on Biden versus Trump foreign policy. Okay. And then giving Biden credit for the economy recovery. Did I give Biden credit for the economy recovery? I don't think... I give him credit for legislation. That's why I give people credit for legislation. Like... Destiny has no clue how inconsistent he is. Did Hamas even mention the embassy in Jerusalem as a reason for their attack? I doubt it. I don't think so. It's just another thing that kind of like pissed off Palestinians. It might have been a big motivator for the March of Return, though. 2017, 2018? When was that? U.S. Embassy, Jerusalem. Recognizes, moves, 2018. Great March of Return started next month. I wonder if... I should find the original Facebook post on that. I wonder if these were at all inspired by that embassy. Oh, well, on the Wikipedia. They protested against Israel's land, air, and sea blockade of the Gaza Strip and the United States' recognition of Jerusalem as capital of Israel. Oh, there you go. I honestly wonder if Destiny thinks the world would have always been better without conservatives. No, I think you need tension between competing factions in order to have like a healthy political system. Looks like Destiny hit the Adderall bottle pretty hard because it doesn't even make sense. I'm so chill here compared to what I wanted to be. Oh my God. I'm trying to remind me of tweakers in Portland. Okay. It's like one of the funniest things is talking about ADHD just means that people just make these random like accusations of shit, like without having any. It's just like a thing you say now. It's basically the new like cuck. Based egghead? No. Fuck you, drink bleach. Destiny, being charitable to both. Beyond legislation, there is some value in executive orders and also particularly in agency heads. See the wildly different policy stances of the EPA under each. The issue is people like Gorka just dumb ideologues. No, shut the fuck up, you fucking moron. If you want to argue that rescinding executive orders made a positive impact on either the economy or the government spending, then you have to point to those executive orders. There is no charitability there. That's not charitability. That's stupid. If I say, like, how did Hitler take over Germany? And some guy was like, well, I think it's because he spoke words. And then some fucking retard like you comes in and is like, well, actually, Destiny, if we're being charitable to both sides, speaking words is actually an important part of communicating with them. No, fuck off, you fucking retard. Shut the fuck up. If you want to say that, like, there are executive orders you can rescind or whatever, sure. But there is no being charitable to him. That was his argument to make. He didn't make it. So no, there is no charitability there. Jesus fuck. Kill me. Okay. Done with this. The fuck is this? Our good friend Rubio.
Will you accept the election results of 2024 no matter what happens, Senator?
No matter what happens? No, if it's an unfair election, I think it's going to be contested by either side.
This is why people say you're overcombative. Not everyone is against you. Constantine is pro-Ukraine. Constantine's position, from what I've seen, is indistinguishable from the most ardently defensive Russian position. What is the difference between what's his name again? Hold on. Constantine. What's the difference between his position and the pro-Russia position? He even uses the same pro-Russia talking points. Edmund, thanks for the $20. What's the difference? There was a comment pointing out how he was wrong about the Minsk agreements. Oh, wait, was there? The moderator was factually wrong at multiple... Oh, that's an hour ago. Was factually wrong at multiple points of conversation. Misquoted Angela Merkel. Oh, this is a guy who's like watching my stream probably. The Minsk agreements collapsed in months. Signed 5th of December 2014. Collapsed January 2015.